music, medicine, then some. The talk, the tavern. The song's over. Here we come.
And welcome to Wednesday's Talk of the Tavern. August 8th. Here we're going to interview master vocalist Kelley Gray. I'm your host, Travis Sivart, and today my vices are a little Jameson's whiskey, 2 ice cubes today, because I actually want it watered down, not in the mood for anything strong. Then I have coffee, Coke Zero, and cigar I pulled out for yesterday's show and then never smoked. What am I smoking today? It's a Gurkha. I can't read it without... Oh, Legend. Okay. Now let me introduce the co-host of the show and the co-host of my life. There's Andrea. Oh, she's gone.
Hi, everybody. I'm hearing horrible feedback.
Are you just getting like the double voice loop?
I don't know. I'm hearing it, so... And I hear me, and... Anyway. But I have tea and chicken and rice and my knitting. I'm so excited. Party.
Nice. Now let me ask you, did it just quit a moment ago?
No, it's still going.
Okay. We had an
and
issue...
I made sure I had mine off.
We had an issue with Kelley's sound earlier, so it might be that, but it seemed to go away. It could be because you were new, so it's like trying to get an extra attention from you.
Oh. Hi, Greg. Greg's in the chat.
Greg is in the chat. Greg, we're going to bring you in on the second hour because Kelley can only hang out for an hour. Then he's got to go do awesome stuff, which I'm going to let him tell you about. Kelley, welcome to the tavern, and what's your vices today, buddy?
Well, hello. My vices today are coffee.
What kind of coffee?
I drink it all day long. Right now, it's just a McDonald's McCafe.
Not bad coffee.
I'm an equal opportunity coffee drinker, whether it's black, whether it's creamy. Like, you can't find a type of coffee that I won't drink.
Nice. Challenge accepted.
Yeah, so today it's French vanilla creamer, nothing fancy. You know, I'm living on a budget. I'm an artist, so.
Yeah.
And also, I vape on occasion. Today, I'm vaping milk of the poppy.
What's that taste like?
First, it's like a creamy strawberry shortcake kind of.
So nothing like poppies.
Yeah, so no, nothing I would assume like real poppy, because I would never have tried it. I have no idea anything about opium or anything like that. But
I've had poppy seed bagels.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
They have no flavor.
I bought it at first with the Game of Thrones reference, and then I actually liked the flavor, and now it's just kind of stuck with me. So.
It sounds good.
It is really good. It is.
Any other vices, or shall we start? Uh-oh. Andrea's wandering off for something. Oh, see, that's her vice.
What's that? That looks like baked goods.
Sort of, but not at all.
I learned how to knit like a week ago.
Oh, knitting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess on the vices, that's probably one of the better ones. I mean, you can't really get arrested for knitting unless you're doing it while you're driving a semi-truck or something. But.
That's right.
I have to keep that in mind.
It is an addiction.
I used to be a big drinker. I used to love booze. I was a bartender for many years, so I know I did specialties and like the tastings for Scotch, whiskey, some local microbrews, stuff like that. I don't drink anymore, but I find other ways to enjoy myself, so it all works out.
Very good.
There you go.
I don't drink any more either, but I don't drink any less. So,
there you go.
But yesterday I poured one like this for the show, the regular 3 o'clock show, and it lasted me one drink till midnight.
Yeah.
So, well, it's one of those things. I enjoy the flavor. I don't enjoy being drunk at all. It's just a loss of control and escape that not my thing. Let somebody else go play there.
My problem was it was the exact opposite. I really couldn't stand the flavor most times. I just wanted to get drunk. So,
right.
Stick to one, half dozen the other.
See, there's also times where I have, the bar in the library, and I'll be out of my whiskey and brandy and maybe a rum, and I won't have anything else to drink. There'll be 12 bottles of alcohol, but I don't want any of it. So, yeah, I'd make a horrible alcoholic because I just won't drink what's on hand. I only drink what I like.
Hey, that's perfect. I wish I had your way of looking at it more than mine, but
It's I come from a long line of accomplished drunks, so I blame it on them that I'm not, because I'm rebelling against a family tradition.
And both of my parents were stone sober. Maybe that was my problem. My mom and dad should have had a few more drinks.
That's right. If they were booze hounds, you would have been a better man.
Yeah. I mean, I would have saved a lot of money and time. That's for sure.
That's true. See, we always figure how to blame it on our parents.
Yeah, absolutely. Mom, Dad, why didn't you love me more? I tried so hard.
And not like that uncle did.
I'll drink to that.
Oh, yeah.
But this is tea, so whatever.
She's a teetotaler. Okay, so before the show, we were talking for a bit, and you mentioned a few interesting things, which I immediately went, okay, stop talking about that, because I want that on the show, which I do to people, and it could be confusing.
You're like, what?
Now, I guess looking at the list that I have, I want to start with, you mentioned you're a vocal instructor. Now, what's that exactly mean? And then I'll delve a little more into what you can do for me to help me with my voice.
Well, generally, it's like, okay, so I was really heavily trained in classical music vocally for most of my early adult life, into my early 20s. And when you start going through a lot of these lessons, you start learning that the lessons are pretty much the same across the board. The fundamentals of being a vocal performer are pretty consistent no matter which style of music you're going into, whether it's pop, rock, opera, choral, anything like that, jazz. A lot of the fundamentals are there. So
and not smooth jazz, but real jazz, right?
Hey, you know what? I'm not one to critique jazz. It's not my usual preferred style of music, so I let those that enjoy it, I let you guys figure out where everything goes.
I love a jazz club, but I think it's more the atmosphere with the music.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, the music is good, but the atmosphere with it, it's like a meal with the right side.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love the feel of a good jazz club or a blues club. I'm with you. Sometimes the jazz musicians lose me when they get into the really. It's like it's almost too much.
Go watch Preacher.
Oh yeah, I want to imagine a story when I'm hearing a jazz song or a blues song.
This
and
is why
you're going way too far in every direction. It's hard for me to,
I like blues jazz. It's almost a Dixieland feel when it's upbeat, but I don't know, just something with like you said, a story. I like to feel a structure.
When you hear it, you think of New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
That's what I like. Yeah.
Anyhow, you were saying about vocal instruction and the basics.
Well, it started with a couple of people that I knew at the time that were a little bit younger than me that had real difficulties with a few things vocally, and I could tell that they were really talented vocalists, and I was like, hey, why don't you meet with me a few times and I can help you get over that hump.
Real quick,
then they went on.
If I can interrupt with a clarifying question. So when you say vocal instructor, you mean specifically for singing as opposed to speaking vocal instructor? Or is it both?
Yeah. Well, any students that I've had to date have all been singers.
Okay.
But again, like I was saying earlier, let's say, for example, you want to go into voice acting. Well, I have enough experience in acting, and I think that a lot of the core tenets of vocal performance are going to be the same across the board. So, you're going to use a lot of the same principles too. So, yeah. But put it this way: if I met somebody that they were like, I want to become an orator, I want to do a podcast or a live stream, and I want to be a better vocalist in that sense. Well, I'm just going to go through a lot of the basic fundamentals of teaching you, and depending on how long we talk on this, you're going to hear me say it a lot, but basic breathing fundamentals. Once you get your breathing fundamentals down, then everything else kind of comes from there. Like, you could sit me down with a football player and I could spend a good 2 to 3 hours of practice with them, and they'll be a better football player afterwards because I can help them in their diaphragmatic breathing fundamentals.
I wrote a book, and it's 27 Thoughts on Enjoying Life, and the last thing in there mentions breathing and how important being able to breathe correctly is to everything you do. Just the oxygen flow alone, let alone if you're actually using your voice to go with the breathing. It's,
Yep.
so
And
yeah,
if
I
you're a
get you.
vocal performer, singer, then that is your fuel. That's everything you're doing is coming from your breath. So that is where everything begins. And most errors are when people are not breathing properly, or they're not using what breath they have well, that kind of thing.
Very correct. So let me ask you this, unless if you have something you were trying to get to and I'm now interrupting and stopping. Okay. So now I was half teasing, half not. When I was younger, I didn't like my voice. Not that I'm a huge fan of it now, but I'm very accepting of it because you grow into. But I found I was very high and nasally. So I actually have a note here, which you'll see, low and slow, which told me to, because I tend to think fast, so I talk faster, higher pitched, made myself slow down. The pauses we were talking about earlier is related to that. So now with singing, which is what I'm really interested in. I love to sing. I've always had music, in school and then the show, etc. But I'm not good at it. I am not talented. I'd be like the Clancy brothers. Are you familiar with them?
Yeah, the name sounds familiar, but probably not. No.
Irish pub music from the 70s forward. Basically, they put on a great show, but it doesn't mean they have a lot of talent and they're offbeat quite often. And that's me. I can't find the beat, or else I'll find it and then I'll wander off. We'll meet back for vacation later, get together, go separate ways, write pen pal letters. So for somebody that has trouble carrying a note, though they harmonize well, what's some basic stuff you'd put in front of them to either practice or pay attention to or whatever?
Well, if you're having trouble, there are two core parts of a singing voice, pitch and tone.
Okay.
The pitch is what the frequency is, the note that you're singing. The tone is what it sounds like. So you could be singing the absolute right note, so you're singing la, and it comes out la. Well, the pitch is right, but the tone is horrible. You need to work on the tone. So if you're talking about pitch, a lot of that often comes down to how it's resonating within the person. So you can find different methods of helping the person find that resonance. Some of it comes down to actually feeling it in your body. You see me reaching for the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why is that whenever you speak, you can feel the vibration right through the core of your skull into the top of your head. So a lot of times you'll see people that are having trouble with pitch put their hand on the top of their head so that they can feel that resonance, that vibration more. Other ways are to do the ear cup technique, where you put your finger like right here in your ear and you curl it down so you can hear exactly what your pitch is. And if you're still having trouble even there with finding a pitch, then a lot of times I will look at where are you resonating within your head. The phrase a lot of vocal instructors are using nowadays is your mask. You want to resonate within your mask.
Right.
And the mask is like an area right in here, right behind your nose, right in between your nasal passage and your soft palate. And you want to really push that resonance forward so you can feel it a little bit. Feel it / hear it. I don't know. It's a little combination of both.
I remember back in high school chorus, them talking about that, because there is a vibration you feel right inside here. It's almost a hum or a auditory glow. So yeah, it is a bit hard to describe till somebody hits it and they go, oh wait, what was that? Because I was looking for it. I realize it's there now. And this is actually
one of the vocal warm-ups that we do for people that are getting ready to go up on stage is lip trills, where you like that and you just sing up and down. And for a lot of the younger cast members, the last show I was in, I got some chuckles because I would say, loosen up your boogers. Like, it may not sound nice to say it, but that's what you're trying to do. If you're vibrating this area right behind your nasal passage and you feel like you got to go blow your nose afterwards, then you're probably doing it right, because that's the whole point, is to vibrate this area. Because if you vibrate, people will subconsciously, they will vibrate lower and they'll pull that down.
Right.
And they'll actually pull their voice into this area. And sometimes that's okay, depending on what voice you're going for. But you need to open this up, and you're like, hey, you got to get that really weird nasal sound so you can at least use that area. You don't want to use it.
Right, unless you're Carol Burnett, then it's okay.
Yeah. For character pieces, that's a different story. There are plenty of characters out there that really talk with a meow kind of voice. So yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you, let's see. We'll move through the few topics we have, because we're already 15 minutes into the show, so we'll hit an hour like this without even trying.
Time's flying.
It does, especially with a good conversation. So I love musicals. My favorite is, really, I can't think of the time, Music Man. But
Okay.
whether it's modern ones or classic ones, a lot of the classics I like for the choreography, you know, Guys and Dolls, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. But even the modern ones, I'd love to see somebody redo Cabaret. Whoever redid Chicago needs to redo Cabaret, in my opinion. I feel like that would be a right tone and feel. And so anyhow, you just came off tour with a Broadway musical. First, I want to clarify: was it actually on Broadway when you performed?
No.
Okay, and that's good.
It was community theater.
Gotcha.
So I don't want to like. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was
It
asking.
was a short run.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was a short run. It was at Bay City Players in Bay City, Michigan.
Nice.
We did Fun Home, which was a Broadway musical that we were so.
I haven't heard of that
And
one.
it won the 2015 Tony for Best Musical. It was amazing. It was a great time. But
What's
did you have a specific question about it?
No, I just want to talk in general because, you know, I love musicals, so talking to somebody who just got done. Here, I'll throw a list of questions and then we could just bop back and forth to wherever you please. I'd love to know what you did and what your role was, a little bit about the musical itself because I haven't heard of it, and then at least one really good story about your run, whether it's interaction with the audience, an individual, or just some goofy-ass thing that happened backstage. So wherever you want to go, just...
Okay, well, starting with what I did, I was music director, which means that I am in pretty much like the second in command of the whole thing. And I'm in charge of everything that has to do with notes being sung or notes being played, anything musically. I don't tell the actors where to go. I don't tell them what to wear. But if there are notes coming out of their voice, then I'm the one that's supposed to be telling them what to do.
I have a
Also-
question about
Go
that
ahead.
then. So, okay, so you don't do the choreography or costuming. Got it. But as the musical director, there has to be some point in time where you're like, no, we can't put a corset on her, then expect her to dance across the stage and hit that note. Does stuff like that happen where you're like, we've got to
Yeah.
talk here?
Absolutely. Like, for example, in one of the songs that when we were getting close to our tech week, I saw their blocking, their choreography. I saw it for the first time, and the soloist that I had singing, they had him running back and forth in front of the stage singing his song. And he looked great, but he was having the hardest time trying to catch his breath, and he was struggling up there. And I looked at the director, and this is where like the directing team, the production team, we meet beforehand, so we know how the pecking order goes.
Good.
I looked at the director and I was like, hey, I don't think that's going to work. Like, if you want him running around, a lot of that's going to be huffed out spoken lines, like, that's all you're going to get out of him if you have him running like that. And the director's like, you know what, we can put him on that platform right in the middle, and he can just stand and sing while everybody else runs. I'm like, that works much
Beautiful.
better for me. Yeah.
Real quick,
I
go ahead, Andrea.
Okay. Kelley, Greg is asking, he has a request. You're far too interesting. Could you please be a bit more boring for 5 minutes so he can set up?
I can try, but I have a huge personality. So.
Yeah, he's actually
Thank you,
setting
I
up.
appreciate it.
He was the one that was going to come on, but his show ran late. He's still setting up his camp because I mentioned he'd be in the back of his van. So yeah, apparently he's not setting up because he's busy listening to what you're talking about. So there you
Just
go.
multitask, like we were talking about. You got to multitask.
Turn
a
up the
little
sound, Greg. Share it with everybody around you. You don't have to
There
see
you
us.
go.
We're just sitting here. Okay, so
bit.
yeah.
In addition to the vocalist, I was in charge of arranging the pit orchestra, figuring out which instruments, because there were, I believe, 12 instruments that the score calls for. Considering it's community theater, I was the one making the call of going, well, do we really need tenor saxophone for 2 measures? Do I need to hire somebody just to play this part? That kind of thing. So I had a lot of control over the instrumentation, how the musicians, for example, I got a little anal retentive to the point where I told the violin player to bring one of her roughest bows because I wanted it to have a really raw sound.
A ragtime feel.
Yeah, and it's Fun Home is it's a musical that it is a very intimate musical. So it's very even the pit is a very chamber-like, which very small. It's not supposed to feel like a big sweeping.
I am
show.
impressed that you have an orchestra pit at all. It's you don't see that in most productions nowadays, so that's pretty awesome. And by the way, how's your first conductor injury going? Is that any better?
Oh yeah, it was funny. Our first couple of rehearsals, the pianist is a really good friend of mine and a great player, and he hadn't listened to the soundtrack before, so he was playing everything at like 2/3 the speed that I wanted to.
Oh.
So I'm just sitting there snapping my fingers with the beat, and I ended up doing it for the entire first rehearsal. For 3 hours straight, I'm snapping my fingers. And I got home and I actually had a blister, and I was like, oh, I have an injury from conducting. I've never had that before. So
Now you've got a
first time.
snappy callus.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, I've been a guitar player for years, so I mean, it was only time my right hand got some calluses instead of just my left one. So yeah, that was we definitely do a lot of. I did a lot of the arrangement for the vocalist and the pit, getting that handled, and a lot of it came down to honestly just really good casting. I mean, it feels like I'm patting myself on the back, but I'm really trying to pass the praise on to the others, because when we cast the musicians that we cast, the actors that we cast, we knew what we were getting, and they knocked it out of the park. And the reviews that we got, rightfully heaped praise on them, because these were people that I knew if they were given a chance to try a piece like we gave them, that they would knock it out of the park, and they did. And it was
Here's the bottom line.
It was hard for me to have my back to them all night long. I wanted to turn around and watch them, but
Here's the bottom line. Take the kudos that you deserve, because whether it's the director of a film, the coach of a team, or the teacher of a class, without that person bringing everything together in the perfect sync, it doesn't matter how great all the parts are individually. If they're not brought together in the right way with the right timing, they're not going to work right. So this is something I'm trying to teach my son, whether he decides to be a sports fan or a theater fan. You got to give credit to the person that stands there and go, you. And if you help the casting and pick the casting, then you built the machine from scratch. And glad to hear it went well, though. And it's great when you get talented people to work for. But people on stage will get all the credit, because that's what the audience sees and adores. They don't realize the days, the hours, at home, on stage, and everywhere else that you did all that extra stuff.
They just see the finished product.
That's right.
Well, and that's kind of my job as music director, is to make them look as good as they can, make them sound as good as they can. I really don't mind, because, so for example, you asked about interesting stories that happened along the way.
Yeah.
I had, for example, one singer in the cast, several singers in the cast that would fit this bill, but one in particular that was an amazing belter. And she had an incredible, like, get out there and just shake the walls with her voice kind of resonance. And
now, are we talking about like Stevie Nicks, or are we talking about just the operatic type shake the walls?
I don't know. She's got a bluesy aspect to her voice.
Okay,
so
I got you then.
I don't a little bit. She could kind of do a little bit of both. That's why I felt comfortable casting her. I knew she was versatile. So, but I knew she really wanted to belt this song, because it's an emotional piece in the play, and it's called Days, and it's near the end, and it's where the mother. I'm sorry, spoilers, but this is how it goes with musicals. The mother is telling her daughter about how she's so upset about how her life has gone by, and telling her that how it happened was, it started with just taking care of the kids, and then it became nobody pays attention to me anymore, and blah, 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 blah. And I told her, I'm like, I know you're going to want to come at this song, and you're going to want to hit it hard. Don't. Pull back, because that intimacy is what's really going to sell it. And I said, I tell you what, we're going to give you a couple of fermatas here at the end. And a fermata is basically a grand hold, where everybody holds that note and lets somebody else do their thing. And I said, I'm going to fermata the pit, and I'm going to give you as much time as you need to let that out however you want to let it out. I'm going to leave it up to you. I would recommend be vulnerable, but you do what you want to do. And she got out there, and the first night that she did it in front of a crowd, by the time we got to that fermata, she was in tears, and she was barely getting the words out. And I found out that out of the people in the audience, there was like maybe one or two people that weren't sobbing by the end of the song. And I'm like,
Beautiful.
that's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm telling you. You pull that back. Like, I know you've got a voice. Try to like resist that urge to show it off, because if you pull people into your insecurity, into your sadness, then they'll come and they'll appreciate that. I don't know what it is about humans, but we love it when people make us feel like crap, you know? So,
Well, yeah, it's the emotion without having to go through the trauma. And it's a beautiful thing. And, you know, now obviously you couldn't do it in this show, but have you ever seen Cats?
no.
Okay. In Cats, there's one part where the little old lady cat comes out, and she sings Memories. And it's kind of crappy version. But then, like 20 minutes later, she comes back out and sings again, and that time she belts it out. And because of the difference, the counterpoint between the two pieces that are the same song, just one is sung like a broken old lady, and the other one is sung by a lady who lived a life who just cherishes what she went through and what brought her to this point. Yeah, and it's a great emotional counterpoint with that sort of thing.
Yeah,
so.
and there's an old rule that you'll hear a lot of vocalists remind ourselves and others, is that anytime, never sing the same line twice. Anytime you sing a repeated line or a repeated phrase, or especially a repeated song, you've got to do it differently the second time. Why? I've already heard you sing that once. Why do I want to hear you sing it again? Well, there's got to be something else that you got to give me something else.
Right.
You know. So
It makes sense.
That's consistent. Hearing that story from Cats, that's consistent with musical theater. If you're going to do it twice, you got to find a different way to do it.
That definitely makes sense. It reminds me of writing. I'm a writer, and I have friends that write screenplays. I write novels and whatnot. But it parallels some things there where you have the shadow of something else, but you don't want the exact thing. You want it to relate, you want it to run parallel, you want it to echo, but you don't want it to repeat.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andrew?
I have a question. If you could work on any musical, or have you worked on something that you've always wanted to, what's the one project you would like to work on, if you haven't already?
Oh God. Well, I would love to be Sweeney Todd. That would
nice.
be a dream role. And notice I say I want to be. It's like I don't want to be music director. I would love to be music director for Sweeney Todd, but if I had the option, no, I want to be Sweeney Todd. I'll do the crazy hair bit and all that. You can dye it gray. I don't care. I'll be an old man for as long as I'm Sweeney.
It's what's your favorite version of Sweeney Todd? And I've only seen 3 or 4 different versions. You know, the Angela Lansbury version, the one with Neil Patrick Harris. I don't know if you've seen that one, but it's... I forget what it's called in theater. You probably know the term, where they don't actually have the sets. They might have one backdrop, and you're actually running around the orchestra pit. And so they'll pull 4 characters over here to work a scene without any sets. But Neil Patrick Harris plays Toby in that version.
Yeah, it's a cheaper way to put it on the musical.
Right, and it gives you more of a... Because when you have a musical that's been around that long and been seen with that many different... You can do this and not need the backdrops because everybody already knows what's going to... But, Neil Patrick Harris played Toby in that. And he's an adult in it. He's, probably in his early 20s. And it's, again, a great version. So what about you? Which version are you... that's the one I like best?
Probably the original that I saw back in drama class in high school. So we had a tape of, I think it was Len Carew, Angela Lansbury,
Probably.
Broadway. But I will say that when I saw the Tim Burton Johnny Depp version come out,
I enjoyed it too.
I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I thought that Johnny Depp did a pretty good job at hitting all the notes he wanted to, and he did it in a creepy way.
Especially for a guy that's not a singer. Though he's done a lot of music, he doesn't necessarily put himself as a singer. And I know he was a member of a band. Matter of fact, it was him that I think got Nick Cage into movies when they met, and he was... Or it might have been the other way around. Andrea, do you remember the story?
I have no clue.
I don't know.
I didn't know he was in a band.
Oh, yeah. Back, like, before Jump Street.
I don't pay attention to that. I know he was in Nightmare on Elm Street. That's about it.
I think that was his first.
Anyway.
I'm
Anyhow.
always impressed when I see people that we know as actors, and like another one is Ewan McGregor in Moulin Rouge.
Yeah.
I was totally surprised when I heard him sing it. I'm like, oh, that boy can sing. Like,
Yeah.
there's no joke. Like, as a singer myself, I'm looking at him going, that's not an actor that's trying to sing. No, he's a singer. He knows how to sing. He knows his stuff. So, yeah. I'm always pleasantly surprised. And, of course, you put him right up against Nicole Kidman, and she's the other way. She is an actor that is doing a pretty good job at singing. No, Ewan McGregor was a singer, so...
This is what I found in Les Mis with Hugh Jackman. What's his name that played Javert? From Gladiator, yeah. Russell Crowe, yeah. He felt like an actor that was singing.
Mm-hmm.
But it works for Javert because Javert is very compartmentalized and very regimented and very stiff anyway, so it felt like he was singing straight from the Broadway score, whereas Hugh Jackman and many others went off the page to put the acting into the singing instead of the singing into the acting. And I don't know what you're feeling on that. You may hate that version.
Started on Phantom of the Opera with Gerard Butler. That was that's the one where I hate to be like a musical snob, but I'm like, nope. Somebody says, "Oh, I've never seen Phantom. I'm going to go watch the movie." I'm like, "Please don't. No. Here, just listen to the Broadway recording and look at pictures before you do that."
Well, the thing with Les Mis, I like the Broadway recording better, but the movie version for me is the most emotional version I have seen. Pros and cons, there's a balance, but I have to agree with you. Phantom of the Opera, I want to love the movie, but I'm kind of like, eh. And whereas other musicals, you'll catch me watching, out of the 30 or 40 musicals I have on the shelf. Hold on, my cat is in the way of things. You go over there.
They always find the perfect place.
He was here, and we have 8 of them, so they come and go. But yeah, it's nope, totally forgot what I was talking about.
Well, I have a musical that I've been watching a lot.
Is it Trolls?
No, it's Sing. I guess it can be considered a musical. That's
It's
the
a
kind
musical.
of stuff I watch. I've never seen Les Mis or anything.
Sing is an animated musical.
Okay.
And
Nothing wrong with that.
It's very good. It's very fun, and it's great when you have a musical that is so well done you forget they're singing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think I was bitching about Phantom. That's what I was doing. It's I just haven't connected it with it. Whereas these others, by the way, one thing I didn't like, Oklahoma with Hugh Jackman, just not very good. And I don't think it was him. I think it's just Oklahoma in general is kind of boring.
I was in Oklahoma my senior year of high school. The choir director. Choir was a very big deal when I went to high school. We had like 200 and something people in choir, so it was a very big deal. And I was kind of promised the lead in the show that we were going to do in our summer season, and I got the lead, and it was Oklahoma. And I looked at the choir director, and I was like, "Really, Oklahoma? That's what I get for my summer year?" Like,
okay, I'm not the only one then.
Technicolor Dreamcoat last year, and now I get to be Curly, really? So yeah, I hate Oklahoma. I mean, I'm sorry to people that are fans of Oklahoma. I have a personal hatred for it, so it's nothing personal. For anybody else, it's just personal with me. So
I get it.
I'm with you.
Yeah, it's and
They
it's
should
not.
have cast you as Sweeney Todd.
That's right.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like, that would have been a really good send-off for my senior year, but no, I get to wear cowboy boots and stuff and I'm so not a cowboy person, whatever.
So, okay, let's cover
the kind of music I'm doing is mostly musicals and techno, so no, nothing screams cowboy in any of those. So.
Hold on, I'm picturing a techno cowboy.
Don't do it.
It's like the Rhinestone Cowboy with more LEDs and less bedazzling.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Just LED lights everywhere, but the cowboy hat and all that stuff. Yeah, that's okay. I mean,
suddenly you're like a
Devo
Devo
show.
show.
Oklahoma, I might watch.
Okay, Okay.
Yeah, if they did a techno remix of Oklahoma, I would go just for, if nothing else, I get to laugh and point, but maybe they'll do something good with it, you know?
You never know. Well, they took Oklahoma and they just revamped it the way, I'm trying to think of another musical that they totally changed the tone on. Nope, I can't come up with something. I don't know. So, tonight, you're doing a show of sorts.
Well, tonight I'm going to go jam with the band. I don't know what they consider themselves. I've heard a couple of their songs, and it sounds like kind of like death metal.
You want to drop their name?
Metal to me. Oh, actually, I don't even know their name yet. No, it's a friend of a friend kind of recommended me, and
Gotcha.
so we're meeting up tonight for the first time. But yeah, like I even told the friend, I'm like, I'm coming off of a musical. I just did like some opera a couple weeks ago, and I'm willing to give it a whirl. I mean, if they want something a little bit melodic on top, why not? You know?
Well, you know who Evanescence is, right?
Yeah.
They work in the opera type field in great, so you never know. Work the opera into the metal, and
it's true.
Yeah, if they want to combine some of that heavy, really chunky music with some singing on top of it that actually has like notes to it, then I'm totally down with doing that. Because I was kind of raised on, maybe not Evanescence because that's past my time, but
Metallica.
Like, I don't know, Deftones, grunge, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains. You look at Alice in Chains, and really that's. So if you took the vocals away from Alice in Chains, a lot of people would consider that like heavy metal back in the day.
Right.
But you throw their vocals on top of it, it becomes grunge because it's melodic and blah, blah,
and
blah,
they'll
blah,
say
blah.
back in the day, I'm not that old.
I don't know. Like I'm at the age now where I just kind of assume everybody's my age. So when I reference something like a rotary,
it's funny.
It's. I didn't think we were that close to the same age. If you're referencing rotary phones, mind you, I didn't have to climb the pole and get Ethel on the line or anything.
No. Like we didn't have a party line in my house. We had 7 digits for our phone number. It wasn't like, get me green 372 on 3. Nothing like that. It was very standard. Like you pick up the phone and push buttons. But
I remember.
We had
the rotary.
Do you remember in the 80s where they had party lines where not just like a 3-way calling, but you actually had
20 people.
You called into a thing and it was like this group chaos.
Yeah,
and it was great for like 14 months, and then it disappeared and never appeared again.
That's why everybody was on drugs, because you had to be to call that thing.
Yeah, I remember like when people talk about party lines, that's what I think they're talking about. I think of like those late night call 1-800-PARTY-USA or something like that. And like, you never really use those. And they're like, everybody use them. I'm like, I think we're thinking of something different.
Yeah, the original party line was you and 6 or 10 of your neighbors all shared the same phone line. So you could pick up your phone and Martha would be over there gossiping with Ethel, and you're like, hey, I gotta call Bob to get a pig slaughtered.
Around, man.
Hey, a little fun fact about my life. For a small time there, I was swear to God, I was a phone psychic. So when you would call 1-900 whatever for love, money, and career tips, I was one of the people that you would talk to for.
That was last Wednesday's show.
Well, I'm glad I missed it then because I really don't have a lot of input other than I'm a very skeptical person anyway. So if people say, "Oh, so you're psychic," I'm like, "No, I wasn't psychic."
That's what the show was about.
Yeah. And by the way, literally last Wednesday we had debunking fake psychics, and Greg Chapman does this on stage. He has a whole show for it.
So I might have been a good fit for it.
Yeah, you absolutely would have been. And in my teens, I actually applied for one of the 976 or 1-900 or whatever tarot reading lines. Of course, my interview was very short. I called. I said, I want to work there. He went, great, give me a reading. I went, what? He went, give me a reading. I'm like, I got to call back. and I hung up.
I'm getting some confusion. Oh, wait, that's just me.
Yeah. I just felt like I was Mel Brooks talking to Maude in the Roman area going, did you bullshit today? Did you try to bullshit today?
Best line in that movie.
My cat is taking.
I was trained in an actual like center where like they not. I mean, it was very metaphysical as far as training goes. But they actually taught us like how to keep people on the line past a certain point, like different methods of like prolonging the call, that kind of stuff.
Carney knowledge.
We didn't get paid until after the 5 minutes was over. If you get 5 minutes free, then I get paid at minute 6, that kind of thing. But most of the time, like, I don't know, for me, it was a real good segue into bartending.
That makes sense.
Because, like, if you think about it, if people are willing to spend $240 an hour, which if you figure out the math, that's what a psychic call costs, $240 an hour. If you're willing to spend $240 an hour to talk to a stranger, chances are you're going through something, probably. And you probably just need somebody to talk to, which was right up the line with bartending for me. People come in the door and they just want to sit there until 11 o'clock at night and stare at the wall. Hey, what's up? What's going on? You need somebody to chat with, that kind of thing. So, yeah, being a phone psychic and being a bartender, very similar jobs.
You know, maybe I should take a course on that and then apply it to certain shows here, because we'll get folks who just pop in and they're like, what's the meaning of life? And I'm like, oh, wait, I have an answer for you. You know.
Hold on, I got Google right here. Let me find that. 42. I don't know what this means, but it says 42.
Well, you know, we'll get people that come in and like, you know, I don't feel fulfilled in life. What do I do? And then other people throw out a hard-hitting political question. The only people that upset me when they do this are the ones that leave immediately after asking. I'm like, if you're going to troll me, stick around for my answer. It's only fair. Because I absolutely will answer your stupid-ass question in all seriousness. Which
sometimes the trolls that stay, they end up subscribing to the channel, and now they're our regulars.
We have had a few come in, and they open up with, what the hell is that on your face? And now, 3 months later, they're here 4 times a week hanging out. Because I answered the troll. And it's just a good time.
They say you can't engage the hecklers, but every once in a while you kind of got to. So,
well, it's like a bar when you're a bartender. You know, you're set up for the hecklers.
There's always that one guy. You know?
And once you're friends with the hecklers, you're entertained constantly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you learn really quickly when you're a bartender. The customer is not always right. Often the customer has no idea what they're talking about. Oh, yes. I get special drink prices. I know the owner. Yeah, I know the owner too, and they would fire me if I gave you a special drink price for no reason.
I am the owner. I don't know you.
Yeah. Like, oh, I come here all the time. That's funny. I work 5 days a week, and this is the first time I've seen you. So, you know.
I only come here when you're not here because you're creepy, mister.
Well, you know, you get what you pay for. Here's your $1 beer.
That's right. $20 is $20.
$1 beer? Oh.
So tonight you said you're jamming with them. Are you going on stage? Are you performing in a club or a bar? Or are you just like going to their garage?
I think it's just to go into their garage, wherever their makeshift studio is. We're gonna see how it works, get to know the people, spend a couple hours playing a few songs. You know, generally, first time two musicians get together. You have like the two different sects of musicians. You have the professional musicians, and then you have your hobbyist musicians.
Right.
Hobbyist musicians, they just want to get together and let's play some jazz. Let's play something together. Let's see how it works. Professional musicians are like, let's get together. We'll hammer through a piece. Give me the music. Next time you see me, I will have it completely down. That kind of thing. You know, like the music, the show I'm going to tonight, or the group I'm going to tonight. I'm willing to bet that they have no sheet music. I'm just throwing it out there, willing to bet. But if I went to like a pit rehearsal, no sheet music, everybody would just go home because there's nothing for me to do without sheet music, you know. So completely different styles, and I'm used to doing the jamming thing. I've been in a few rock bands. I was in a ska band, stuff like that.
Ska, really?
No, yeah, I still, to this day, I still love ska as much as some people, they roll their eyes at it. I still love it. It's the closest I get to punk. So.
I have enjoyed the little bit of ska that I've heard. And you know where I first learned about ska?
What's that?
Police Squad, which is the TV series that preceded Naked Gun with Leslie Nielsen. That's where I learned about ska from. It was in the 80s.
You're not the first person I've heard that from. Yeah. I've heard that from a few people. Yeah.
Now, here's a fun fact. Last night or the night before, Andrea and I are watching a movie. No, it was Legends of Tomorrow, the DC superhero show where they travel through time. And the bad guy did something so Elvis Presley never comes to fruition. So, basically,
Took his guitar.
rock was never born. And one of the characters mentions, like, only somebody truly evil would destroy rock and roll. Bet you this guy likes ska. So,
Oh, come on now. Plenty of us ska fans like rock and roll.
it's
Yeah, I don't do ska anymore, but it definitely I learned how to play bass in a ska band, so that definitely now I can play jazz bass musicals and stuff like that. A lot of these rolling bass lines aren't as much of an issue for me. So
it
the
is
last show I just did, I played bass when I was conducting, and one of the songs was very Motown feel, and there's this whole section where it's just a bass solo where it's like do 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 do, and it's like no problem. That's if you're a ska bass player, that's pretty simple stuff. So
It's amazing how many different forms of music were birthed from the blues. If we look at rock and reggae and jazz, and all these were kind of birthed from the earthy blues in the little backwoods here and there, or dirty downtown joints.
Blues, like, you look at the history of music, and you can see the history of humankind in a sense, because a lot of blues, depending on where you're looking at it, you could look at the blues that comes from the Appalachians and stuff like that, where there's a lot of connection with a lot of Gaelic reels.
Right.
And a lot of the heavier bluegrass you get, the more Gaelic folk music you kind of get into. And then you start getting into real early rhythmic and Gaelic stuff with the Irish islands and stuff like that. Like, it's super, but then you get the different kind of blues that came through New Orleans way, and it has a much more, the instrument's more lyrical, it's less rhythm based and that kind of stuff. So you get more French influence and
Andrea?
stuff, you know.
Speaking of music, the videos that you wanted me to post, you want to talk a little bit about that and put in the chat?
Oh, yeah.
What are we going to look at there?
I can't see the chat, so you'll have to tell me whichever one you posted first, and I can...
I just put a link to all the videos you did, and I started top down, so...
So basically, she posted all of them. So let's see. The first one, give me a second.
Sequence error is the first one.
Okay, yeah, sequence error and faster robots need algorithms. Those two were both for the same project. It was a video game that I was working on that they were going for they wanted to do like an 8-bit feel. They wanted the music to be a little bit kind of 8-bit, but a little bit more modern. It was supposed to be about a group of, I think the premise was like a group of robots that have gone wrong, like an AI that went twisted. So what I was trying to do was figure out like any music that I write, I try to break it down to its core parts before. And for this, I figured if there was a computer, they would look at us as we are a base 10 species. So if they wanted to make music to interact with us, they would do everything in tens. So the first song had a tempo of 100, the second song had a tempo of 200, and it was supposed to be, one was supposed to be slower, one was supposed to be faster. Everything kept completely in concert C because everything is simple that way. I don't know, basically the whole premise was I wanted to, sequence error would be the first one that's kind of like the opening of kind of like some of the musical themes. And then the other one, Faster Robots, that was more of an upbeat. The designer of the game wanted to get something that was a little bit slower and something that was a little bit quicker to get an idea. And these are the two demos I threw at them. These are both pieces that were very quickly thrown together. Usually whenever somebody approaches me about a project, I like to sit down and spend like one evening, a couple hours. What's that?
She's saying hey to one of her viewers.
John. We have new viewers, that's all.
Oh, hello, everyone. So I like to spend a couple hours with the themes just to get it back to them, because I'm a real big fan of the iterative process. Whenever you're working with another artist on a project, the communication between the two of you is the key. If the ball stays in one court too long, then one person's hatching an egg all on their own. So you get me your ideas, I'm going to put something down as quickly as I can, get it back to you, and then give me your notes, get it back to me as quickly as I can so I can start to reiterate. And
that's exactly how I work with an illustrator when I'm doing a book with, pictures. I want it to be collaborative. I don't care what the end result is in the sense of, are we doing royalties? Am I paying you one time? I want their fingerprint on that project. I want it to feel like them, so it's different from the other projects. Stop fingerprinting the
exactly.
camera.
Yep, and so like those two songs kind of go hand in hand. So there's that. Seed of the Light Post, that was for a project. A friend of mine was making a virtual reality horror type simulator, or I don't know if you want to experience. It wasn't really quite a game.
Mm-hmm.
And when I told him, I can do some composing, and he's like, oh, well, make me something simple. And it was one of those where I don't think they even went forward with the project ever. I haven't heard anything about it. But I looked at it as a challenge to myself, like, can I write music for a horror theme? So I challenged myself that just play one note, just play C on the piano. Now, it sounds like everything I'm writing is in C. And trust me, C is not like my favorite key or anything. It's fun, but I wanted to stay home on C major, or just C, and see what I could do with it. And I just started building the music around. If you listen to the song, you'll hear just the piano ringing out with C, 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 and then everything just builds around that. And of course, the C, C.
See what you did there.
The heartbeat. Yeah. So, and it's supposed to stimulate kind of like the heartbeat. And I go very heavily off of using the different voices I have to stimulate the heartbeat and to try to make it a little bit quicker, a little bit lower, to throw it off, that kind of stuff.
You definitely have your math brain going in your music, don't you?
I try to implement a little, well, because music and math go hand in hand.
They
anyways.
do.
It's
They
how
do.
I learned about my first fractions.
Developing patterns
So
and whatnot, and that also creates some of the most popular songs are just based off simple mathematic patterns.
See, kids, math is important.
It is.
Yeah, and my time spent as a programmer has taught me that a little bit of planning to begin with will save you a lot of pain later on.
Yeah, lay down a
so
structure.
I kind of plan out how many, if I'm using 8 measures for an expression, well, I'm going to need blocks of 4, because anytime you're going to use an expression, you generally want to use 4, unless you're purposely throwing them off with 3. So let's say 4 times 8, so that's 32. So I need 32 as my core block of one full expression repeated 4 times. So I need 32 measures. Then we're going to do 3 versions of that, so that's 32 times 3, so we got 96. Then we're going to need a bridge, where let's do 16, and I figured this out ahead of time.
I'm kind of upset that you didn't do 4 versions, so it's 4 times 32, because you've kind of broke your pattern there by dropping to 3.
Oh, well, see, the thing is, you throw the 16 measure bridge, and then you do 16 measures of the original theme one last time as your outro and song.
Okay.
Just a
Yeah. And then you have Jurassic Park.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very similar pattern. Yeah. It's
So and I have this theory, and you may see it sometimes in my music, like the pieces that I've linked here, maybe not as much. Seed of the Light Post, that one I do this in. But I'm big on, I bury the lead. I'm the opposite of what a good journalist would do. I take whatever the most beautiful, luscious sound in my song that I found, and I bury it. I put it at the end of the song, or I put it somewhere where you wouldn't expect it, because the whole point is that, like, I have this theory that I've told a few vocalists and people that I've worked with before, and some people really like it, so I'll share it with the viewers and the two of you, is that whenever you're playing music for somebody, whenever you're writing music, you have moments where you're taking people on a flight, and they're flying through your composition. And most of the time you spend either below the clouds looking at what the issue is, or stuck in the clouds and you can't see what's going on. Every once in a while, you have to let the person get above the clouds and see heaven. But we, as mortals, are not meant to see heaven for very long, so you can't leave them up there. You have to bring them back into the confusion and the chaos as quickly as possible. So that's what I try to do with my music, is centered around there are a few moments where the listener, the audience, is going to be above the clouds, where they can really flourish in that full sound and feel that real tug at their heartstrings. And once you feel like you're tugging at their heartstrings, let it go, because now the rest is theirs.
Isn't this exactly how life is, as you were describing, where your personal theme music, whatever that is, those 20 seconds or 20 days that inspire you to rise and be more than you are in any other given moment, it's not always visible. Matter of fact, it's rarely visible. And because of that rarity, it is extra special and extra inspiring. If you lived amongst greatness, your comparison would be lost, and you don't realize that you're surrounded by greatness.
Yep. Without the bitter, the sweet ain't the sweet.
That's
You know,
right.
you-
Look at American coffee and then go try European. You'll learn that lesson.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Or American beer and European beer, same kind of thing, you know. Or American water and European beer. It depends on how you
Yeah,
look at it.
yeah. Or European water and American beer.
We have 5 minutes, guys.
Yeah, I want to give Kelley. I want to give you a chance to pimp anything you want to pimp, whether you want your Instagram, Twitter, or anything.
Well, you
else.
can find me on Instagram at Mad Bartender, all one word, exactly how it sounds. Kind of a
Now,
play on
is
Mad
that as an
Hat.
angry bartender or as in the mad scientist?
The Mad scientist, the little bit crazy bartender is the way I used to look at it. I'm no longer bartending, but it's kind of once you're a bartender, it kind of just stays with you forever. So I'm also I'm currently I just got done doing music directing on Fun Home. I guess you could say I'm in between projects as much as any musician can be in between projects, because as much as I'm in between projects, I'm still currently in a musical called Who. Murder Musical Mystery, which is going to be
Nice.
at the Bavarian Inn in Frankenmuth in the end of October 26th, I believe, the day after my birthday. And I'm still, I write music constantly. I'm always looking at new projects to take up. I would say if anybody is interested in making music and you see anything in what you heard today from me talking, or you've seen the
No
music that's
SoundCloud yet?
posted. I do have a SoundCloud. I don't even remember what let me pull it up and tell you what my
You don't have to worry
username
about it
is.
right now. I just encourage you to utilize it. That when you come back on, we'll put it out. And
Do you
by
have
the
a
way,
website?
no.
Yes.
Oh.
Well, and my SoundCloud is just soundcloud.com/Kelley-Gray.
Gotcha.
Exactly as my name. But yeah, I can toss you a link and you can throw it into the chat or whatever. But yeah, if anybody is interested in hiring me for making some music for a project you have coming up, or if you like what you hear and you want to collaborate with me on a project, I'm all about that. So
There we go. I've got it up right
I
here.
also do a lot of VR projects too. We didn't quite have time to get to it today, but I'm also a VR software developer that I am really interested in making virtual reality experiences with a degree in sociology. I'm all about trying to help people. So whether it's training, education, empathy about the plight of a marginalized community, anything like that, I am always interested in elevating the voices of other people and using whatever media I have as a way to do so, whether it's music, talking, or creating experiences in VR. So if anything like that sounds like something you'd be interested in, follow me, shoot me a message, stuff like that.
And by the way, I had already followed you on SoundCloud. And let me recommend these right here. They're a reporter's notebook. They actually fit in your back pocket, but they're great for keeping notes as you're moving around town when you don't have a bag with you for a full legal pad.
Yeah, this is the one I'm using. It's a little bit bigger than that. So I think I may need to downgrade.
No, that's what I normally use, but this here, since I'm working a job where I don't have a desk, it allows me to quite literally just put that in my back pocket and keep it with me without losing it. And it's not
The
that
older
little.
I get, the more I need paper and pencil. I'm telling you. I'm with you.
True story. Okay, man, go enjoy your jam tonight, and thank you for coming and hanging out. I appreciate it.
Yep, thank you very much. It was a pleasure seeing both of you, and hopefully I'll talk to you guys soon.
I'll look forward to it. Let us know how that thing comes out tonight. See if you got a new band, especially if you're going to work in the beautiful melodic vocals with some nice hard metal. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun.
Okay, we'll catch you later, buddy.
All right, take care.
Bye. Now, everybody, bear with me while I set up a few things here.
So, hey Greg, are you listening? Are you coming on?
Greg, shall I pull you in, sir? Let's give it a shot here. It's, pardon me while I go find him there. Now we'll give that a shot and see what we come up with. It's, oh my goodness. Everybody's off kilter. The spacing of everything is
I know, it's one of
a
those.
bit odd.
Hmm.
There we go. It looks like Greg is kind of joining us.
Kinda.
There he is. Let's move.
Oh, stay light.
Just about.
For the moment. There we go. Got our names up and everything. Beautiful.
I told him you didn't want him to be interesting, so you could set up. He didn't listen. I tried.
It's all right. I'd forgotten I was listening to it on Twitch. I still had Twitch open up. I was getting double voice feeds there. Confusing myself completely. Right.
Now,
Evening all.
fun enough, I don't know if you heard the part where we were talking about that he worked for a psychic hotline for a while.
I did indeed, yeah.
So that was fun.
We try and link it all together. I mean, that was all planned, wasn't it? It's all
It
linked
was.
together. It's very intricately put together.
Now we're going to sing It's a Small World and move on from there.
Well, I thought it was absolutely fascinating. You asked all the questions that I wanted to ask, which was, if you can't sing to save your life, how do you get round that?
Yeah.
It was basically how I took it.
No, that's exactly what I got, that I was aiming for. It's I love to sing, but I'm not good at it. And I don't know if he answered it, but he had 5 minutes to talk about that. So, he answered it to a point, but I think it was a matter of just finding the tone, just listening to yourself and making sure you practice that one thing till you got the basic. And from there you grow.
I practice. It don't matter. The cats still run away.
Andrea and I are going to form a band. That's what we're going to do. We're just going to be like OMG Horrible or some crap. That's the whole title. OMG Horrible and some crap.
My goodness.
And some crap will when we have guest people in.
Just random fact to throw in here, the history side of me. Do you know who the first person to use OMG was?
No.
Or any idea when it was first used?
1700s in, I want to say, an official correspondence out of the U.S. government. Greg, tell me the actual one. Who was it?
The one I heard is Winston Churchill in the Second World War.
You know what
There
I'm...
may be an earlier one if you know of an earlier one. The one I know of is Winston Churchill wrote it and then put it in brackets afterwards, which kind of defeats the point.
You know what? Let's...
That's funny. Use the Google.
That's what I am. Look at that. I type in first use of OMG is like the autofill. Yep,
Because I heard you talking.
1917, from Lord Fisher to Winston Churchill.
There we go. And I
So,
believe
yeah.
he actually puts OMG brackets, oh my god, which kind of completely defeats the point of using an acronym.
No, that's what writers do. The first time you use an acronym in a book, you want to drop the definition immediately afterwards, and there's some writers that don't, and they'll have a
And then
dozen...
you're like, what?
Yeah, they have a dozen damn acronyms, and I'm like, I have no idea what this guy is talking about. This is horrible.
Apparently, the human brain can process 3 acronyms in a sentence. That's what I heard. Generally speaking, if you use more than 3 acronyms in a sentence, people's brains can't keep up. Which is why when you hear a lot of business and marketing people, they will use acronym after acronym after acronym just to throw you off.
Yeah.
My son will verbalize acronyms, so he'll be
The
like,
teenagers nowadays. Oh,
he'll say LOL. Or after a video game, whether he wins or loses, he'll be like, GG. And I'm like, no. G is one syllable, so's good. Use the word. You're not typing this out, because that's where these, a lot of these came in, as you're insta-typing back and forth. And
but still, teenagers.
Speaking of acronyms that are longer to say than the actual things themselves, one of my favourite one of those is on every single web address in the world, we have www, which stands for World Wide Web. Well, it takes a lot longer to say www. I know it's quicker to type. Just always strikes me as funny that www is actually 3 times as many syllables as just going World Wide Web.
But the fun fact is, a lot of people say tridub.
What?
Is that the latest thing? Tried up. I like that.
Yeah, it's triple W, tridub. So when you're giving out a web address, tridub, thelastAirship.com.
The trouble is, then you're back to the acronym thing. You go tridub, thelastAirship.com, and then you're going to waste more time explaining what you meant by tridub in the first place.
And they're like, try dubstep? I like dubstep. not what I said. How was your show today?
The shows today were good. Now, I missed the first hour, which means I've been holding off my voice until I can join you tonight. I've got a ginger mead tonight. So I thought I'd...
So it's a mead made out of redheads?
That's the one, yeah.
Nice.
Only a ginger can call another ginger.
Plug the gentleman who
It
makes
has
them.
no soul.
Do you get Tim Minchin over there?
I mean, not like as an infection.
Tim Minchin, fantastic singer-songwriter, has a fantastic song called Prejudice. Builds it all up, this wonderful long build, and I'm going to give away the song now, but beautiful long build about how there's a word you can't say, couple of G's, an I and an N, an R and an E, mix them all up, and there's a word that you're just not allowed to say. Only a ginger can call another ginger, which is a fantastic takedown of
There is a series of videos out there, and the first one to come out is What's Up My Ninja? And it's Asian people talking to each other, and basically there's a video out there, What's Up My, since I'm white, we can't say it without being kicked off Twitch, and it's got like the black people, needs to get a job, like whatever. They took that video and parodied it with What's Up My Ninja, and it's all Asian people. Then they did it again with What's Up My Ginger, and it's all redheads, and of course at the very end they've got, like, with the What's Up My Ninja, it's an Indian guy coming in going, What's up my ninja? And the Asians are like, no, it's okay, let him in. And then with the ginger at the end, they have somebody coming in who's not a bright redhead, just kind of like me, where I've got ginger highlights.
A fantastic sketch. I can't think who did it off the top of my head. It's an American sketch. Came out a couple of years ago, and it was a white comedian and a black comedian, and it's how this white comedian gets away with it. And he actually has just a black friend standing behind him, and every time he wants to use the word, he just points to him to say it for him.
I do that with Ed on Monday nights.
Yeah, I was going to say that's what Ed's for.
Matter of fact, this previous Monday, there was something where I'm like, Ed, I'm drinking... I once gave Ed a cigar, a Nica Libre. And when Ed got it, he's like, so this is a freed... Yeah, slang term I can't use. Black guy. And, yeah, this week when I'm like, hey, Ed, I've got a Nica Libre, and he yells at it, I'm like, he can get away with it.
Oh, dear.
It's, So, how...
I cleverly set myself an alarm earlier on to make sure I was on time, and I obviously set it 10 minutes too late because it's gone off again.
Yeah, so, with the guest, I want us all on a little earlier for setup anyway, so when it was 5 till, I'm like, nah, Greg gets to come in later instead of right away.
Yeah, no, that's fine with me. I got to the campsite late, so it gave me a chance to very quickly cobble together my sleeping arrangements for the night. The downside is next week, when we do this, I have to try and get the van the other way round, because let me just see if I can get you this view out this door here that I'm having. Let me see. I don't know if you can see that sunset over there.
Oh, nice. With a cloud that looks like an ankylosaurus.
Yes, I will give you that one.
Ha.
Very good. But yes, I've sat there, and the way I had the computer set up, I thought if I'd been on tonight, you would have seen this beautiful sunset carrying on throughout the evening. Instead of which, you've just got the back of the van again. The stage trike where it always is, with the addition of a brand new bell on it. So. Now, anyway, I was about to have a drink.
That's a cowbell. Hey, wait, pimp the guy real quick.
Okay, so this is Professor T. Bottom. He's actually got a website at professor-t.co. Oh, sorry. What is it? Tridub. Professor-t.co.uk. So check him out. He's got some great stuff. And this is a ginger one.
You can't say that.
Now that is a very, very strong ginger. What I will say, and we talked about this before last week with the maple one that I had last week, it's not so much a flavoured mead or a flavoured rum. The first week I had the honey rum, and that was a strong rum with a hint of honey to it. Mm-hmm. This is very much almost like a nice little bottle of ginger with an extra kick to it. So that's you've got to like the flavour it's got, and you're really going for that. Last week's maple one I found a little bit sweet for my taste. It just tasted like drinking maple syrup. Whereas this one's actually quite nice. And it does claim to be. It does say here used to aid digestion for over 5,000 years. So if I have to suddenly run off the air, you will know why.
Because your digestion was aided. You know, I don't like ginger, which is a shame.
You're allowed to say that.
Yeah.
You just insulted a whole load of our listeners.
It's a shame because, like, mead is way too sweet for me. So that sounds like a ginger mead would be a nice balance to it.
Yes, oh, definitely.
Oh, by the way, since we last spoke last week, I talked to another friend who has been brewing their own beer, and I think I may begin that hobby, not to try different beers, but there was 2 different recipes he mentioned, an Irish red and an Irish blonde, and I'm like, if I can brew these and bottle these in reusable bottles, then I could slap a Talk of the Tavern sticker on the bottle and have a Talk of the Tavern beer on air. And that'd be kind of cool.
But also, of course, when you say Irish red and Irish blonde, I thought that those were categories on Pornhub, I'll be honest with you.
It's, give me a second, I'm going to mute myself and go find out.
It is. Not that I would know personally.
That's right.
There's the voice of experience.
It's Irish gingers. There's a lot of those, though, isn't there?
I would have thought so, yeah. That tends to be most of them.
Yeah.
And then a lot of them struggling in England at the moment because obviously with that Irish Celtic ginger hair, you also tend to get not a great reaction to sunlight, tend to burn very, very quickly, and really struggle. So
Don't worry, my family made it in the U.S. with our sun and heat here. They'll live. It's my grandmother was born and raised in Ireland, and my mother was born in England on the way back over. She was actually born in Lancaster, England, and my grandfather was an American GI in World War II. So, yeah, I'm that far away from have been born in Ireland by 30 years and 3,000 miles or something.
it's one of those fantastic things, and I think it applies a lot more in America than does over here. I love that thing about Americans in general, this fascination with where your family is from. Because if you're English, especially, by and large, I'm from England. And then you can go back through the family history. Actually, my grandparents, a few years ago, they did a full family history for us. They went to all the records offices and everything. They kind of stopped doing it. They're quite a proper couple of people, and it kind of disappeared when they found out that way back about 400 years ago the entire family's illegitimate. But we don't talk about that. But they gave this copy of the family history to Flip when we got married. They said, right, you're part of the Chapman family now. You're going on the family tree. Here is the family history. And I thought that is something that's quite rare over here, to actually really be able to trace your roots. And when I trace my roots, especially take my dad's side of the family, I can go back 4, 5 generations, 6 generations to the same town in the same place, probably within the same sort of 2 or 3 square miles. And it's great when you speak to an American, they're like, oh yeah, well, that part's Irish, and that part's Japanese, and that part's French, and that part's this, and that part's... And you think, wow, you've really mapped that out, haven't you?
See, somebody tried to do it for me. They couldn't get past my grandparents on either side. That's as far back as my family tree seems to go from there. Now, on my maternal grandmother's side, there's Ireland. And that's why I mentioned my grandmother was Irish. Not that I'm Irish. I'm a freaking mutt here in the U.S. I'm a citizen of the world at best, an American at worst. So, yeah, I think with her, I can hit her family. But it'd be like you, where the next half dozen generations are all going to be, this far outside of Dublin. Or Belfast. Dublin.
That's it. As soon as you go back and then you go back years and, you get people that say they're died, British through and through. And you can go, well, how far back do you have to go to be British through and through? Because if you go back far enough, you kind of, we're all Roman and mixed up with Anglo-Saxon and Viking and everything else. But one of the fascinating things on that topic is a couple of my family members moved to Guernsey in the Channel Islands. And that's a lovely, tiny little island. They only really managed to move there because he had worked there for a while. And they have all sorts of rules over there. Like, if you're born on the island, you get a different house price to someone moving over there. and they said they will never be islanders.
Right.
Their children's children will be accepted as islanders on Guernsey, but they never will.
Right.
It's like, wow, that's so
Selective. Now, I need you two to talk for a moment. I have a package being delivered that I'm going to go grab here real quick. So.
okay. Well,
I was
while
gonna say,
Travis
I
is
get it,
busy, well,
Okay.
no. We'll leave it. We'll leave Travis to grab his package. He has just finished looking up red and blonde Irish, and he's now going to go and grab his package for a few minutes. So.
All
Now-
right. Well, yeah.
Well, that was a fantastic guest you had on, but I can't help feeling that you were slightly out of your depth when we got to musicals.
Me?
Yeah, you. There's only two of us here now.
Well, anyway. Yeah. Well, I don't watch musicals. I don't really like them.
No,
Unless
and
they're animated.
I'd say I will watch musicals. I watch, there's some that I like, but I was the same. But when people are talking about different versions of a musical and things like that, I'm sitting there going, yeah, it's a musical. For me, that's where it begins and ends. But it's fascinating. It's like we were saying last week about computer games and things, how you have those things that are just outside your sphere.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're just fascinated. If you're listening at home, Travis is currently opening a FedEx box live
It's a
on air.
medium box. So
It's a
I have
medium.
a medium
What did you
package.
get?
I told you. Hold on, I'll show you.
Wow, that is disgusting. Is that the extra large?
How would you put the extra large inside the medium box? I mean,
That is funny.
they stretch, but only to a point.
Oh my.
Oh, we started that early, haven't we? Now, inside the box there is an envelope. The envelope is now being opened up. Inside the envelope we have
Another one.
we got a smaller envelope. Looks like some bubble wrap possibly going on in there as well. Oh,
Oh.
it's something in bubble wrap. We have a bubble wrap package. That's right. If you weren't fed up of unboxing videos on YouTube, we're now doing unboxing radio.
Oh,
It
No.
was a big one as well.
that's a big. Oh, that was the case. I'm like, wow, that's a big stem. Never mind. That's pretty.
It's quite a long stem. I'll give him that. It's quite a long stem. Oh, come on, we want to see you. We want to see you with it in your mouth, Travis.
No. Because I just got it, and I don't know what the last person did to it. This will be cleaned before I put it in my mouth.
You don't want to know what they did to it. Just saying.
For our
But I can do
listeners,
that.
it's a pipe.
Oh, that's funny.
That's fantastic.
So that's a Meerschaum. What? Stop doing that.
Church warden.
Church warden.
Yeah. The material is meerschaum, which is actually like a sandstone that's softened and shaped with water. Well, water is applied to it till it's softened and then carved into a shape, smoothed out, and a finish put on it. And a church warden is just the long stem type pipe. And actually, from the feel of this is going to be probably my second best church warden. I have 5 of them up here, but a lot of them are smaller bowls, so you're only getting like a 15-20 minute smoke out of them. But yeah, this definitely needs a little cleaning before I start sticking it into my mouth.
I like the Meerschaum stuff because as you smoke it, it changes colors and
It does.
it's really nice.
Hey, Tracy, been a few times. Where you been? Good to see ya. It's
Now, again, we're talking about pipes. We were actually just talking about, while you're off air, Travis, we were talking about musicals and how they're not everybody's thing. And I was saying that we were talking last week about video games and things. Same thing with pipes. I'm fascinated. As soon as you start talking about the church warden stem and the makeup of it and how it's going to be your second best, I have no interest personally in pipes. I don't smoke anything at all. I have no fascination with that whatsoever. And yet, as soon as I start hearing somebody knowledgeable talking about something, I'm just fascinated. I'm just fascinated. I now want to know everything in the world about pipes, even though it doesn't interest me at all. I just enjoy listening to somebody who is
passionate about
interested in
something.
something.
Real
Exactly.
Cool Hand, good to see you too, buddy. If you and Tracy have been hanging
you've
out,
been
you
here for a
wandered.
while.
Yeah, it's been a week or two. Crazy busy around here. Stopping by for a quick hello. Missed you guys. Tracy, we missed you too. Thank you for popping in, and thank you. I see you got that subscriber star, so thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Awesome.
It's always good. And then I think, Cool Hand, do you subscribe via Amazon Prime? Whether you do or don't, thank you. Appreciate you pumping in for the support.
You know what?
What?
I ordered that cord, and it fits perfectly for my monitor.
Beautiful. Yay.
But my monitor, it won't hook up to my laptop to actually work.
And Greg disappeared.
I'm doing that thing where I'm starting to flick in and out. I'm going to see if I can find the torch that I had around here earlier, so I can add some light on the subject. Oh.
Yeah.
Now, I think what I've done actually is I've not put quite enough air into my airbed tonight, so I'm all a bit wobbly. There we go. That looks a bit better. Right. Now, your musician that you had on in the first half, I just want to... I was listening to the whole interview, so there's got a couple of things that I sort of came up with, unless you've got a topic that I'm trampling all over.
Not at all. Trample on, sir.
One of the things that interested me was you said about wanting to sing, what could you do to improve your singing? And I'm very similar. If people go onto Facebook, go to the Last Airship Facebook page, and you will see a video of me back at the Coventry Steampunk Festival when I was there with Kiss Like Heath that were performing, and they performed in the town centre, and they said on the last day, well, this is the theme song to the Last Airship, Flight to Fall. We think Greg should come up and sing it with us. Facebook Live, and horrendous is probably too nice a word for the way it sounded. Flick said by the last verse I hit one or two of the notes. But it interests me that it's one of those things about wanting more, always wanting more out of life and never being satisfied. I'm really lucky I do all the magic, I do all the juggling, I do all the performance, and yet I'm the same as you. I'm like, but I'd like to be able to sing as well. I'd like to be able to do that in the shows. Knowing there's something performance-wise that I can't do, not because I haven't tried or I haven't put the effort in, but because I can't do it, that's something that's always going to bug me.
Well, I don't think it's across the board. Okay, so for example, I've never been good at sports, okay? I enjoy playing them in the sense that I enjoy getting together with people and doing an activity, but I'm not worried about ever being good at basketball, skateboarding, football, soccer, or football if you're in the UK. I don't care. I'm not worried about that, but music has always been something I have enjoyed. Since my first grade, I started taking chorus and violin, and all through my school career, I did chorus, I did an instrument of some sort, I did electronic music to learn how to play keyboards and write music. Now, writing music, I'm okay at, and I once had a band that performs at Renaissance fairs of pirates, and though I have no musical ability in the sense of singing, I was able to take their voices, which they were much, much more talented than I'll ever be, and direct them in a way to improve on what they already had. So I just like music, but I don't. Okay, I guess I'm a little sad that I can't sing along with the radio and sound good or, whatever. And I've thought about going in and relearning how to play violin or learning how to play guitar. And then I think about it, I'm like, well, what am I going to do with it? It would just be for me. And I have so many other things I do. That's time out of my creative schedule. So instead, perhaps I'll sing quietly in the back of the room where nobody can hear me and enjoy that and just admire other people's talents. I know enough I can relate to them, but just like a sleight of hand. I have books on it in there, and I have a handful of tricks and different card decks to do different things, and I can go in there and take the time it would take to learn these things and do them well, but what am I going to do with it? It's not my passion. It's an interest. It's a fascination. But I write, and I talk, and it's debatable, and we could go back and forth on this, but those are my gifts, those are my talents that allow me to interact with the world on a creative level. And I'm okay with that. So I'm not upset that I can't do other things. There's a very big fondness for music in particular. And, magic also. But I'm not worried about ever being able to juggle. I have juggling balls in there, but yeah, I suck at it. I'm horrible. I'm the guy you want on stage to make you look good.
You see, there's kind of two sides to that. One of them is the phrase, "I've always wanted to be," or "I wish I could be," which I hear an awful lot. The number of people that come up to me and go, "Oh, I've always wanted to juggle," or "I've always wanted to do magic. I wish I could do magic. I wish I could juggle." And I think, basic card trick, basic 3-ball juggling, if you were to commit to it, I could teach you that in an hour or two.
Right.
Absolutely. You could do magic. If you come up to me and you're 50 years old and you say, "Oh, I've always wished I could juggle," and I say, "Can you juggle 3 balls?" and you say no, I'm going to say, "Well, you didn't really wish for it that hard, or
Right.
you did exactly that. You wished for it.
You didn't try, yeah.
You didn't try." Whereas for me, singing is something personally a little bit different. I sing a lot, and I'm off key, and I make up comedy songs and all sorts of things, and I can never use those on stage, and it's not for want of trying. I never had any interest in sport. I always, just thought to myself, I can't be bothered. If I'd tried to play, soccer, or if I tried to play basketball, I mean, I'm 5'6". I was never going to be a basketball star. But if I tried any of those things because I really wanted to do it and I couldn't do it, that's when it would niggle. And it's the same thing with singing. Now, I do music. I play the guitar. Just recently, I've been vaguely turning my stage tricycle into a rudimentary drum kit. I have drumsticks in there. I play the stage tricycle like a drum kit. But singing,
So you have rhythm.
I got rhythm.
I don't.
I got rhythm. You see that's it's always trying to figure out what's wrong. I've got rhythm. I play the drums. I play it. I don't know if you know Ichabod Steam, Paul Snook,
Mhm.
fantastic animatronic band and everything else. He got me into that. He's actually working on building a mini drum kit to go on top of the stage trike. But in the meantime, I just drum all over it. So I got rhythm, but singing is something. My dad was a singer, so you'd think genetics. I got dropped from the choir in school. When primary school, I couldn't even get into the choir. Secondary school, I got into the choir and I got dropped quite quickly after I passed out during a show and dominoed the entire choir.
Did you pass out
not
from
kidding.
stress? Stage fright?
No. I probably hadn't eaten enough, and it was Christmas choir show. I'm the one that can't sing, so I'm put right at the back, right in the middle, highest level, and just the heat, I think it was. And halfway through the song, Grandma got run over by a reindeer. This is how well I remember it. I pass out, collapse forward. Everybody else goes out like dominoes. I'm only passed out for seconds. I bring myself back up, stand up, look around. There's carnage around me, but the music's still playing. So I carried on singing until one of the teachers just kind of gestured, "Hey, you might want to get off the stage now." But I had singing lessons when I was sort of 16, 17, 18. I did a few musical things. I did a lot of drama where there was musicals, and I was always cast in whatever the non-singing role was. What's the biggest non-singing role? That one's Greg's. And then sort of the big thing I did, one of the big things for the wedding, the part of my wedding last month that terrified me, was there's a Brad Paisley song called "Come On Over Tonight."
Uh-huh.
And it's all about this guy who says, I always said that I'd never fall in love, and now I'm going to pop the questions to come on over tonight, and I'm going to ask you to marry me. And it's all like pigs fly by and all of this. And it was one my mum heard when I was about 15 and said, "This will be you one day." And I said, "No, it won't." And so I decided I ought to sing this song at the wedding. Now, me and our wedding band, fantastic group, for the last 18 months, we've been working on this one song. And that means, to start with, we kept going through key after key after key until we found a key where I could actually sing all the notes. Then we went through every rehearsal it was right, let's just change that bit. So you can't sing that, let's change it. And basically they kept going until the band were playing roughly what I was singing, as opposed to me trying to sing what the band were playing. And after 18 months we got there, and I listened to that back on the on the video, and I listened to that back and I think that sounds passable.
Right.
It sounds like somebody who's slightly off key singing in a shower, and that is me after 18 months of real dedication.
Okay,
trying to learn that song.
I can help. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, you've got rhythm, so you're one up on me. Now, here's the bottom line. We both know if you practice something enough, you will get passable, as you just demonstrated there. So, you can do music on your stage, but you have to rap.
I have been known to do that.
You can talk, and you can talk to a beat. So you've got this. Now, you can also change tone, go up, a third of an octave and down a third of an octave. So, the song, who was it, in the 80s, had the word Luke in it. Luke Skywalker and the...
What?
They did in the 80s, it was a rap band, a white rap band. Luke Skywalker and they did 1 and 1. We were having some fun in the bedroom all day and all of the night. 2 and 2.
Luke Skywalker and the Two Live Crew.
That's them, Two Live Crew.
Yeah.
So you could take a song like that's popular enough with people of a certain generation, and you could just modify it to 1 and 1. I was juggling for fun on the stage all day and all of the night. And then you just move it over to, you parody these things, and you do it in a rap tone. Shatner does it in every damn song he sings.
Oh, now Shatner, no, now we're on a different level. I mean, he is a genius. just with that, because what I even like one of his songs, and I forget which song it is. I can't get behind that, and he even starts having a go in the song at people who talk songs instead of singing them. He full out rips apart exactly what he's doing, and that is just genius. That is a man who, that Rocket Man, that original video of him doing Rocket Man, which, if you haven't seen it,
hey Kennedy,
go and look it up on YouTube. And I think it's going to be a long, long time.
Yeah,
till touchdown.
I'm familiar with it. Now, have you heard him do Common People?
Yes, I have.
And then the other one about Caesar.
He's got albums and albums full, but that original Rocket Man where nobody's quite sure if it's a joke or not, and that is my advantage. When I do something like that, I am a comedy performer. It's fine for it to be slightly off if it's funny. Now, I'm fine with that for a sort of spoken word song, and I do stuff like that, and I do little bits of the taking the mickey out of rapping. I started doing this
you could also do Rocket Man. Go, here, I'm going to do an homage to William Shatner. I'm going to do Rocket Man as William Shatner doing the original, but with juggling. And then you do Juggling Man. So...
Rocket Man is brilliantly odd because of that. That is certainly true, Kennedy. And what I love is not only was Rocket Man brilliant, if you've seen Futurama, there's a fantastic episode in that where they have the Zach Brannigan space captain character doing a parody of William Shatner doing a version of Rocket Man, which gets really weird.
And that's what I'm saying you do with juggling or magic or... Oh, that's another thing. If you can take Rocket Man and mix it with Magic Man, and you just keep shifting back and forth between the two songs while talking or rapping to it, you've got something for your show. It might be horrible and never done more than once, but you've got something.
You see, and straight away I'm thinking, and there's got to be some sort of trick that I can link in with that as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's if you come up with the right trick or the juggling, if you can do it while juggling and use different props for juggling that relate to whatever stanza, verse. By the way, you do know William Shatner blocked Talk of the Tavern on Twitter?
No.
Speaking of brilliance,
I haven't been blocked by William Shatner. I've got to go for that next.
yeah, I'd like to tell you how difficult it was, but I can't because it was really easy. I invited him on the show.
He's like, nope. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an invite then.
And he's like, I don't do podcasts, and then he blocked me. I didn't even have a chance to go, but we're not a pod. Oh, damn it, never mind.
No.
Never mind.
Yeah. While we're on William Shatner, but not on William Shatner at all, the fanboy, little fanboy part of me, my little geek side, my little tiny little Star Trek geek that's hidden away inside of me, is incredibly happy because I've only just found out that Patrick Stewart has confirmed he's coming back for the Next Generation.
Right.
Cool. Which Patrick Stewart, for just an amazing guy. I saw him on stage many years ago.
Doing his Christmas thing?
No, I saw him doing a Life in Theatre.
Oh, nice.
And I've got to actually share, and not only him at that point in time, if I talk about him doing Life in Theatre, there's an actor from Dawson's Creek called Joshua Jackson, I think it is.
Okay.
And he did this play. It was his first. He'd been on Dawson's Creek. I haven't seen Dawson's Creek, so I don't know. But he'd been doing this television show, and he'd come over to do his first theatre in however many years it was. His first time on the West End, and he did a two-hander play up against Patrick Stewart, and he held his own on stage. I was impressed with Patrick Stewart in that show, but I'd expected to be. But yeah, Joshua Jackson, that one was fantastic as well. But Patrick Stewart, now William Shatner, he blocked you on Twitter for sending him a request to come on the podcast.
Responding to one of his tweets where I said, hey, we can discuss this, Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas Patrick Stewart, I sent him a copy of my book, Condensed Histories Volume 1, Histories from England, still available on Amazon, sells one copy a year. So go and be my copy this year. Now, he is actually mentioned in that. I talk about how when I started out in acting, I wanted to be a Shakespearean actor, and that was partly because I liked Shakespeare, but partly because of my fascination of Patrick Stewart. And then I realised that I didn't want to be Patrick Stewart, and not just because I value my hair too much. And I wrote this in the book, and I sent him a copy of the book, and I sent him a letter with it, and I said, look, this is where I talk about you. I thought it only fair, I talk about you in the book, I thought it only fair to send you a copy. And one of my prized possessions now is I did have a handwritten note back from Patrick Stewart just saying, thank you very much for the copy of your book, and thank you for the kind words that you wrote about me as well. And I thought, now that is a man with class.
Yeah. It's I would love to have I'd love to have a show with Patrick Stewart and Helen Mirren. Yeah. Really, either individually or together. But yeah, I think talking to the two of them, whether it's about film, stage, or just knighthood.
Yes.
What are you giggling about, Andrea?
Oh, am I on mute? I'm not on mute. I wasn't laughing. I was yawning. I'm sorry.
It's like laughing, but not at all. So yeah, I think it'd be great fun to talk to them, and I look forward to the point where we can have like what we just had with Kelley. Imagine that conversation with Patrick Stewart or Mr. T or Morgan Freeman. And by the way, Greg, since you've been on the show regular enough, if you hear that we're having a certain guest and you want to be there as the co-host,
be like, hey.
Yeah, the regular co-hosts that I have come and go. I leave slots open. I always expect Andrea and I to be there. But I tend to leave one extra slot to bring on one other co-host if I have somebody, a bit famous that they're like, oh, I really...
If you ask, you could fill his slot.
Yeah.
Now, Helen Mirren, I think you're getting beat out for.
Yeah, I think Helen Mirren will be a tough ticket to get, I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's Ed gets preferential treatment on that one.
Now, the thing is, and then you get, when you're talking Patrick Stewart or Morgan Freeman, now, Patrick Stewart and Morgan Freeman, if you got one of them on, I'd be straight away, I'd really want to But the trouble is, their voices. If I was the co-host, I'd be sitting there silently because when Morgan Freeman and Patrick Stewart start to talk, you don't want to interrupt them. You just want it to wash over you. They're fantastic voices.
Well, yeah, we'll have to have you on it. Both you and I will just sit there and stare at them. It's okay.
Yeah, that's it.
This is our audience, gentlemen. Apparently, I'm the only one that's going to talk because the three of us have beautiful voices. Oh, I can't say that without laughing. Kennedy says, "Tell me that the Brits don't like that in the future Star Trek world, Frenchmen will speak with English accents."
Well,
Patrick
wow.
Stewart, who is a Brit, plays Jean-Luc Picard, a Frenchman, and he has a British accent. So,
And it's not like we were talking about earlier about sort of people passing out. He is, supposed to be from this place in France. But if you're going to go there, why do all the Klingons and Vulcans speak with American accents? I mean, if you're going to start going down that route, it all gets a bit silly. Also, there's the lovely story of Gene Roddenberry being asked about, I forget what it is, the something compensator on the starship. There's some sort of, and there's a really important scientific principle that is escaping my brain.
the translator thing?
Not the translator thing. No, there's a principle that means you can either know where a particle is, or you can know how big it is, or something like that.
Right.
And in order for the teleporters and things to work, you'd have to resolve this principle. And so they actually built into the script that they have a compensator for this. And in one of the interviews, somebody said to him, "Look, you've put this in. We just want to know, how does this compensator work?" And Gene Roddenberry doesn't miss a beat. He just goes, "Very well, thank you."
And that's the right answer. That's the answer. Is you need a few stock answers like that where, the bottom line is either that's your answer or it's I write science fiction, not write scientific papers.
And that's it. And whatever realm you work in, one of mine is doing the magic. Obviously, I get a certain number of people coming up to me, and it's always funny because it's always a different trick, but they'll always come up to me and they'll say, "That one trick." They say, we don't want to know how everything you do is done, but that one trick, can you tell me how that one trick is done? And it's the same thing. And I used a very old magical answer. It's an old one. I don't know who the first person to use this one was, but works every single time. Is if someone comes up to me and they say to me, "Will you tell me how that one trick is done?" And I'll turn to them and I'll say, "Can you keep a secret?" And they will say, "Yes." And I will say, "Well, so can I." And just walk off. And that's a laugh point. It's a walk away, get out of the conversation.
Right.
That's great.
It's maybe one day we'll do a show with you and you bring on a half dozen of the most basic tricks. And I'm not talking about how to palm a quarter or, "Tracy, you have a great one. Thanks for stopping in, and we will see you again soon, dear. And thanks for the bits." So, and say hello to Michael. But yeah, we'll bring you on, and it won't be necessarily, we want some decent sleight of hand, but we don't necessarily want the predetermined card deck. The one that's like slightly smaller on one side where you can make the card rise.
Yeah, the stripper deck, yeah.
Yeah, the cheater tricks that literally anybody can do it. It's just a matter of...
I can't do it.
Oh, I know.
I don't want to ruin the illusion.
Well, there's that side of things as well. There are one or two tricks, and this is something with Flick in particular. Flick works with me. She sees my shows all the time, and sooner or later she figures out how a lot of tricks are done just because she sees them over and over again, and she'll see me make one mistake one day and one mistake another day and one mistake. And if you put those three mistakes together, you can probably figure out how that particular trick's done.
She's a smart woman.
But she doesn't want to.
Right.
I find there are people in the world who want to know how magic tricks are done and people who don't. I've always been fascinated by the workings of a magic trick, and I always have to be careful with this because if someone asks you how a magic trick is done and you tell them, a lot of the time they're disappointed.
Right.
There are a few people out there, like me, like most magicians I know, where when they find out how a trick is done, they are all the more fascinated by watching it. I
Right.
enjoy watching other magicians when I know how their tricks are done, because I enjoy watching the art behind it.
Right. Where the distraction point is, when the actual switch is, or
Yeah,
good.
when magic becomes juggling, when I juggle, if I'm juggling 5 balls, there's no magic trick to that. There are 5 balls going in the air, and you're watching, and what you're being impressed with is, oh wow, he can keep 5. Look at his hands. You can see the catching, you can see the throw. Now, when I watch a magician, and I can see, oh, that's where they've palmed the coin. That's where it moves across. That's where it comes out. That to me is like watching juggling. I'm seeing that skill in play.
Right.
Now, to everyone else, if somebody perfectly executes, say, a vanishing coin, they take a coin, they show it to you, they put it on the back of their hand, they rub it, and it's gone. Now, to most people, that's, wow, that's amazing. That coin's gone, it's magic. Or they'll go, oh, he must have, it must still be in his hand. He must have hidden it. Something
Thank you,
like
Win.
that.
Appreciate that. Good to see you.
Whereas if you hit and run. Whereas if you know the trick behind it, that's one where a lot of time that's actually more impressive, knowing how someone's done and the work they've put into it,
Right.
than the trick itself actually is. And that's always the payoff with magic. Is the effect itself worth the time and effort you put into it?
See, when I was young, I started studying magic in the sense of looking into it, researching it, when I was in high school, because I had a friend that would do it. So I learned a few basic tricks then, and then when I was 16 and quit high school and moved to New York on my own, I had a buddy who I met, who I knew for a long time, who was actually known in the magician's world. He created like the crushing beer can and a few other tricks. And I would watch him do his work. And it got to a point where I knew how to do, or what the trick of most of the tricks are. And now it's been long enough since I've known how it's done, I forgot how it's done. So now I'll see a trick that I should know how that's done, but I don't remember, and I can't catch them doing it. And I'm delighted that I don't catch them doing it. I'm like, then they've done it well, because I don't remember how it's done, and they didn't give it away when I watched them very carefully. And I didn't look where they pointed up here. I watched the other hand, and they still got me. And damn fine job. Well done.
Well, there's a fantastic moment. There's a Penn and Teller documentary. It's Magical Mystery Tour or some nonsense like that. And they go, I think it's the episode where they go to India. And Teller does this... performs his cups and balls. They perform their cups and balls with clear plastic glasses, and he goes and watches this guy that's supposed to be a cups and balls expert. And you have the 3 cups and you have the ball, and the magician will take the ball, for example, he'll put it under the middle cup, he'll put the cup on it, and then he'll uncover it, and it's jumped to one of the end cups or something else like that. And there's this fantastic moment in there where the magician, the guy that's doing the magic for Penn and Teller, who's an expert at his craft, he has the 3 cups lined up, and he takes a ball, and he lifts up the middle cup.
Clear cups.
And he puts the ball underneath it. No, these are
Okay.
opaque cups. And he lifts up the middle cup, and he puts the ball underneath it, and he puts the cup on top of it. And the audience wait with bated breath. And then he tips over all 3 cups, and the ball's just still under the middle cup. There's no magic trick being done. And you can see the whole audience sitting there like, okay. And if you watch Teller's face, Teller is stunned, because Teller saw him do all the magic moves you would need to get that ball to end up under the 3rd cup. He saw him do it. He saw him palm the ball away. He saw every move, and yet he hadn't done anything.
He didn't
And
see it
that
go
for
back.
Teller was real magic, knowing exactly what was being done, and then finding out it hadn't been done at all.
That's nice. There's beauty to anybody's craft, whether it's a sculptor, a sleight of hand artist, or a computer tech guy. When you see them do something, what, Andrea?
I need a computer tech person.
Is your monitor not working?
It's not, so I'm trying to hook this up to it, and I need help. Go ahead, talk yourself.
It's yeah. There's a beauty in anybody doing their craft well. And
There is. It's
Mhm.
it's just so many different things, and you can just sit and. It's the same as when we were talking way back about the pipe.
Mhm.
It's something I don't know about it, but seeing you enthusiastic about it fascinates me. I have no interest in, for example, weaving a blanket, weaving a rug, and yet if I see someone doing that and knows what they're doing well, it's beautiful to watch.
Right. Right. Now, and that goes back to Kelley when he was on earlier, and you mentioned, we were talking about different versions of musicals and whatnot, and it's when somebody's passionate about something. That's part. It incites it in you to be, and this is what I do with my interviews. I want stuff I don't know about, or that. Yes, Andrea.
I'm agreeing.
Oh, okay. Or that I know a little bit about. For example, I know a little bit about music, and enough to have a conversation. With a complete novice, I seem like I know a lot. To a master, I know enough to ask the right questions. Enough to relate. And I just love learning that little bit more, because I know enough to, first of all, ask the basics. A lot of people, I've had them on the show, and I'm like, tell me about this. And they start in the middle. I'm like, hold on. Slow down, back up. Let's start with the most basic thing. And because there's a lot of people that don't. Once you hit a certain level of your craft, you forget, or a lot of people forget, that initial learning curve. That initial arc before you became passable or better. And that's what most people want to hear about. They don't want to hear about the master's craft. They want to hear how they can get to a point where they're on the road to being a master.
That's true, yeah. How do you begin? How do you start out? And also, of course, you get a way of talking and a way of looking at things. When you know something, you forget that people don't know the very basic elements. And it's another advantage.
The acronyms?
I say with Flick, with Felicity, there's the advantages of, wow, she's amazing, she's beautiful, she's lovely, she's kind, and she's my wife. But there's also this massive advantage to having her as a colleague, as someone I work with, because she knows nothing about magic. And when I see a trick and I try out a trick and I practice a trick, a lot of the times I will sit there and go, there is no way that's going to fool anybody, because I'm thinking everybody knows about this and everybody knows about that technique and everyone knows I must be doing this and everyone knows I'll just be doing a full shuffle and everything else. And Flick will watch the trick and go, well, no, I don't know how that's done. And you sit there and go, hang on, no, not. And she has just the right, because she spent enough time around me now, she has that just the right amount of level of sort of your basic hobbyist magician.
Right.
So if there's a hobbyist magician in the audience, I now know that if Flick doesn't catch how it's done, your hobbyist magician in the audience. Now, if there's a professional magician in the audience, they're probably going to know how it's done. I'm not worried about that.
They're going to appreciate the craft at that point.
Exactly, it's the other way around.
And that's where I am. I'm at the hobbyist level of, I have a huge eclectic knowledge base. And at best, I'm at hobbyist level of most things that I know about. Mind you, flying an airplane or parachuting, there's some things where I'm like, no, I'm absolutely novice at best. But, no, I do appreciate it. And I love it when I see a simple trick done on a large scale, where somebody takes the most basic trick and just makes it this grand thing that takes up the whole stage, or whatever their assets are that they have to use. Where I've seen this trick done, right here in two hands, no more than 8 inches apart, and now I just saw it on a 20-foot range with massive pieces or whatever, and I appreciate that too.
And then that's the thing. There's so much that's just exactly the same, but also there's a question of people, again, not knowing from the outside. I had someone come up to me at the end of one of my juggling shows, and he's another performer, and he came up to me after one of my shows, and he said, how did you just do that? And I said, what? Because I'd not done anything particularly impressive in that particular show. I juggled. He's a juggler as well. I juggled the knives, then I juggled the knives blindfold, and then I juggled 3 axes. And this is a 20-minute show or so, and I had a lot of fun with it. And he said, you just did the same trick 3 times over 20 minutes. You picked up 3 objects and you juggled them. And I thought, you've kind of missed the point. Because, one, what I'm doing when I'm on stage juggling is not juggling. What I'm doing is entertaining.
Right, with
I'm
juggling
talking,
involved.
I'm keeping a flow. The juggling's just a prop that I use as I go along. But also, I know that when I juggle 3 objects, and it's slightly different, the axes are slightly more difficult. If you're wearing a blindfold, it's slightly more difficult. But I know, generally speaking, that what I'm doing is I'm juggling 3 objects. That's my basic what I'm doing, and I am repeating it 3 times. But for the audience, the difference in effect, if it's presented well, between somebody juggling knives that are designed for juggling and then wearing a blindfold to juggle those knives, and then juggling a set of hatchet axes that weren't designed for juggling, they're not looking at that and saying, oh, he's juggled 3 objects 3 times. They're saying, well, he juggled knives, then he wore a blindfold, then he juggled axes. For somebody who's not inside juggling, those are 3 very different things.
Right. And that's something, if you're ever willing to come on and do... You know a trick that always fascinates me? The rings. You know, where you get 3 metal rings and you interlink them and then you don't, and then they're...
I know that very, very well.
They look so solid, and that trick always fascinates me, which I know it's a simple trick. It's not a terribly complicated trick, but the presentation is what takes work of that trick.
Now, I do a version of that, because I always said that I would never do that trick, because I've got a friend, a guy called Mr. Alexander, and he does a version that goes up to 6 rings being linked together, and it is the most beautiful presentation of that effect that I've ever seen. And I sat there and I watched it and I thought, that is the most perfect performance of the linking rings that I'm ever going to see. I will leave that. And I left it for a long time, because for me that was... And then I've got a version now that I do in every single one of my shows, and I absolutely love, because a lot of people know the tiny little secret to the linking rings. There is a secret to it. Well, if you know that little secret, I do it with 3 bits of rope. And if you do it with 3 bits of rope, if you know, I've had a few people come up to me and go, no, hold on, I figured out how the linking rings must be done. It doesn't work. We just saw you do it with rope. The concept doesn't work that way. And, you know, that is, for me, a fundamental thing. I found something so incredibly different in the performance. And it's, again, the ropes is a fairly simple method, once again, but it's fantastic to see people's faces when it's just a moment. And actually, I use that one to talk about misdirection and different principles of magic. I do like to educate an audience in some of the principles of magic as well, just enough that they appreciate the craft a bit more, without being enough to let them see how it's done.
Well, when it comes to rope tricks, you know, the one where you have a piece of rope and you tie it in a knot, then you can slide the knot up and down. Or the one where you cut it in half and then you rejoin them and you slide the knot and you've got the original length. Those are great illusions. They're simple to do. I've done them. I don't remember how to do them anymore, but I've done them 20 years ago.
Now, I'm going to leap in with a technical thing, which, like I say, this is one of those inside baseball things. Illusion is a term that I don't like.
Okay.
But used in that way, because illusion applies to a very, very specific type of magic. If I put someone in a box, and I close the door and I open the box, now, for nearly 200 years, I'm not giving anything away, for nearly 200 years, tricks like that have been done, not always, but they have been done with mirrors.
Right.
If you position a mirror in a certain position in a box, someone can hide behind that mirror and it will still look like the box is empty. And that, technically speaking, is what is technically an illusion. It is making one thing look like something else, but it's just using a mirror. Whereas what you're discussing with the cut and restored rope, for example, which is where you take the rope, you cut it in half, you do your little magic bit, and then the rope is restored, is a trick. And a few years ago, some magicians, people like, I think Chris Angel is one of them, they decided that trick was not a cool enough word for what they did. An illusion, it sounds better, it's a longer word. But illusion actually just means, you know, it's a box with a mirror in it. It means you're not doing anything. What I do as a magician is I trick people. And that is me actively doing something to fool them, as opposed to me watching a box do it for me.
It also depends what era you're in. For a while, if I remember correctly, in the late 80s, early 90s, they didn't like the term trick. And,
well, exactly. A lot of people don't.
And then the sleight of hand almost sounds like you're picking pockets. So, yeah, it varies from person to person and what decade you're in. But yes, I see what you're saying about illusion. Absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
And
illusion has... And the reason people didn't like sleight of hand was because some of them thought it was giving away too much as well. Oh, if we say it's sleight of hand, then people know I'm doing something cheeky with my hand.
I love it because you're directly telling them, I'm doing some shit and you're not catching me. And I just love that you're just not looking hard enough or in the right place because I'm that good. And I like the term. Now, prestidigitation is just fun to say.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And
as
then
is
most
legerdemain.
What is it?
Legerdemain.
Oh, yes. But those, sadly, with our education level nowadays, a lot of people are like, oh, what? And you're like, oh, sorry, ancient Greek term.
Well, then you also get, these days, psychological illusion. And it's the same thing. It's
it's called
mentalism.
Safety.
Mentalism has gone out of fashion. People don't say mentalism so much anymore. They say psychological illusion because Derren Brown got incredibly famous and quite rich over here doing what he terms psychological illusion. And that's one that always makes me laugh because if you see his disclaimers, he says, what I do is a combination of psychology and magic and trickery and everything else. And people come away from it going, oh yeah, he just did it all with psychology. And you're like, well, no, he told you he didn't. But people miss that subtlety.
Well, part of it is, I mean, like when you're mentioning when a magician goes through his patter and he points out all the points where he got it right. Like, I didn't touch that deck. I never had my hands on that deck, which he did. But that's part of the psychological thing, where you're setting them up to believe what you want them to see.
Oh, there's psychology. There's a guy that you'd really enjoy, actually, not from a magical point of view necessarily, but also as a writer. There's a guy called Kenton Nepper, and I have a lukewarm relationship with him. He's a fantastic magician. In recent years, some of his stuff to me borders on the wooey slightly, borders on the now magic might actually be real. If we can go this far, it's actually real, and it goes a bit too far that way for me personally. But he's a fantastic guy, and what I really enjoy from him is he had this series of originally tapes, I think, but now CDs and downloads called Wonder Words, and this is all about the psychology of words in performance. You know, for example, suppose I'm going to do a straitjacket escape. If I say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to do this, I'm about to escape from a straitjacket, and when I do, massive round of applause. Compare that to me saying, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to attempt to escape from this straitjacket, and if I do, I'm going to want a massive round of applause. It's this idea of, if I say to you, I'm going to escape from a straitjacket, and when I do,
trick spoiled.
Everyone sits there and goes, oh, well, he knows he's going to do it. There's no tension if I say I'm going to attempt an escape. And that's a lot of what goes on with sort of cards. One of the worst things you see magicians do, especially amateur and hobbyist magicians, and don't get me wrong, some of the hobbyist magicians I see are some of the best sleight of hand artists, the best technical magicians, but a lot of them don't have the performance skill behind it. And one of the big mistakes a lot of them make is they will take a deck of cards out of the pocket, and the first words they say is, this is an ordinary deck of cards. Now, if you don't say that, everybody in the audience assumes that when you've got a deck of cards out of your pocket, it's an ordinary deck of cards.
Hey,
I've done magic a long time.
You want a
I'm known as
spoiler?
a magician.
Most people who are not in magic, who just watch the show as opposed to participate in any way or research it don't even realize there's trick decks out there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
they're
I've done it a long
ignorant
time.
of it. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But as soon as you say, this is an ordinary deck of cards,
They've got a
the
niggling
audience
of
goes,
doubt going, does that
hang on.
mean...
Why would somebody say that? That's a strange thing to suddenly say. Why would you don't see a footballer come on stage a footballer come on a pitch and say, this is an ordinary ball? You know, you didn't see Tom Brady come on and go, this ball is definitely not slightly underinflated. You know, it's just not something that happens.
Yeah, I would never even consider that when they do certain tricks, with juggling with their feet or whatnot, that it wouldn't be a perfectly ordinary ball. I guess
Exactly.
It makes sense if it's slightly deflated. It allows you to catch it better and direct it better.
Exactly, and there's sort of various things that we do, but yeah, that idea of just how you use your words and how they work together, and really thinking carefully about the words that you say, and that is something that does fascinate me. It's same as you. I know as a writer as well. This is no doubt something very true of you. Words fascinate me, and words have specific meanings, and it's a way you can use words and play with their meanings. And
my friend
it's
Jeff
just
Stewart, he was the first time I realized that comedians and magicians do the same show over and over. Because when you watch a good show, you feel like it's, sure, they may have planned what tricks they're going to use, but you feel like it's almost improv. You feel like it's very natural. They haven't said this 100 or 1,000 times before exactly in this same way, but they do, and they script it out, and they go watch their show, or however they research their own shows, and they go, okay, that word needs to be changed, and it's those little teeny minute differences that takes you from hobbyist to professional. And patter is so important. When my son was doing a trick and doing it okay, but he had bad patter, I'm like, you've got to work on the story you're telling while doing the trick, because that story is half your trick. And even if it's, you put the ball in here, you put the lid on it, you pull it off, and the ball is still there, you put it back on, now the ball's in your hand. Well, how'd you do that? But it's the story that misdirects people. It's, whether it's a story...
It entertains people, and it is the advantage that a professional has, is when I do a new trick, I don't sit down and write my patter in advance. I've never done that. I learn the basics of a trick. If there's anything I specifically need to say for it at a specific time, I make sure I know that.
Sure.
But then I take a trip on stage, and I just play with it. And over time, I always tell people I make up my shows on the spot, and that is true to a given amount. I never know. When I start a show, I never know what tricks I'm about to do for the next 20 minutes.
Okay.
My evening shows, I have slightly more idea, but like today, I was at Sugley Castle, I gather people round, I've got my stage trike with all my stuff in, I don't know what tricks I'm going to do. And when I start working on new tricks, I will have that trick and I'll bring it out that first time, and the first time I perform it from the audience, I'll start talking and I'll see what comes out, and that's the first time, and then the next time I do it, I'll remember what bits worked, what bits didn't, and I'll modify it. And my advantage is, if I'm working a new trick in, like today, I did 20-minute sets. I had a new trick in there. Now, that new trick, I put in each one of those 3 sets. The only thing I repeated was this one trick, which means I did that 3 times a day. I did it 3 times yesterday for full audiences. I'll do it at least, actually tomorrow I'm at a different type of event, so I can actually do it 10 times tomorrow for different audiences, and they're not audiences that are my friends, which is what a lot of hobbyists have. They are audiences that I don't know, they won't be kind, and every time I do it, until eventually what I end up with is I've never written it, I've improvised it every time, but just in the back of my head I end up having this script that's developed over time, and it'll constantly modify and change and adapt, but it's basically going to be the same show every single time. And so I do have this fantastic thing of, yes, you start off with this patter, but because I'm working professional, because I'm doing 3 shows a day most days, and I'm trying out a new trick, I'm not trying it out, once for this set of mates, once for that set of friends, once for that set of friends, and then I've shown everyone I know, every trick I've got, some of my best ones, I've probably performed 3,000 or 4,000 times for different audiences. Those tricks, I know over all that time that I've developed the best form of patter, and that's the thing. I have the advantage of being able to do it for an audience more than somebody who is a hobbyist or an amateur.
Right. So you get a genuine reaction from strangers instead of supportive friends.
That's it, and and also just a number of repetitions. So, and that's the thing. It's the same as amateur dramatics. If you're in amateur dramatics and you do a show, you spend 6 months preparing for a show that you perform for a week, you're not going to be as good as somebody who's rehearsed a show for 3 weeks, who's a professional, rehearsed a show for 3 weeks, but then does it twice a day for 3 months.
Right.
Because they're interacting with the live audience constantly.
Sorry, cat talking to me. We've entered the 3rd hour now for both of our viewers.
I'm going to disappear off air for 2 minutes. I just have to shut up the van because the campsite, I'm not supposed to have any noise after 10 o'clock.
Okay.
I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Oh, I don't know why the yawning. I think Andrea's infected me. Ew. But actually, I need to get another drink, I guess. I'm almost out of this one.
Oh, I found out how to unmute it without. So there we go. Yeah.
So how do you unmute it?
Oh, there's a spot on the side. I don't have to go back to the video because I can't find it.
There's a spot on the site.
On the side. Side, bottom.
Oh. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, you can also deafen us, which means you don't hear us.
No, on that.
Uh-huh. Right next to the microphone, there's a set of headsets, and that actually shuts up everybody else's sound.
Good to know.
So, yeah, if you're going to switch over
No, I just stayed on mute because I'm trying to find a monitor to hook up for tonight's game. I got the cord. The cord fits great, but it's not recognizing. So, I think the monitor is too old. It's over 15 years old.
Yeah, it could be that it's just too old.
So it won't do it. So I bought this cord I don't need now.
Well, return it.
I'll go to the thrift store and find another monitor. It's all good.
Or maybe the person that got you the chair will get you another monitor.
Maybe.
Probably be cheaper than the chair.
Awesome. Yeah. But I'm sure I can find one because people get rid of them all the time. So you never know.
Very true. I'm just busy fascinated by Greg and his rearranging there.
Oh, is that happening? See, I can see.
He's on, he's dark, he's on, he's dark, he's sideways. I'm easily entertained, apparently.
See, I'm trying to type to the group for the game tonight. I don't even know where. Oh, look, there's the video. So now I can see it. He's not doing anything.
Well, he's back.
Oh.
I'm back. I'm back now.
He's still not doing it.
Can you talk amongst yourselves and I'll be right back?
Oh my god, do you have to fix your camper too?
If that's what you want to call it.
Oh.
Oh, I guess I can mute.
I learned a valuable lesson last week on Talk of the Tavern, by the way. For all of you listening at home, there was a point during the evening where we were discussing something and a video was mentioned. And Travis and Andrea said, oh, no, we can't talk about this on air. Now, and I desperately wanted to know what was so terrible it couldn't be talked about on Talk of the Tavern. Let me tell you, when there's something you're told can't be talked about on Talk of the Tavern, you genuinely just don't want to see it.
And I did record your reaction to it. I have the minute 17-second video of you watching the video.
I thought you were leaving, Travis.
I
What
am.
are you doing?
I'm leaving. Bye-bye. I'll be right
Go.
back. Okay.
We're talking
Here I
about
go.
you. Go away.
Okay.
Oh, so yeah, you were warned. You don't listen. It's all
I was
good.
warned, I didn't listen, but yeah, so just for anyone else that makes my mistake, when you're told it's beyond talk, there is a world beyond it. No, you do not want to go there.
Yes. Well, I have nothing to say to that.
What's the game tonight?
The game, it is our space adventure, the Cornuts.
So does the game just last night, or is it like serious?
I didn't hear you. You went all robotic.
I do that because it was a space adventure. I was trying out my robot voice. Yeah.
So what did you say?
Yeah. Do you get through the whole game in your session tonight, or do you do it?
No, it's ongoing.
It's
You know how
ongoing?
when you watch like television shows, there's like each episode has its own adventure, but there's a whole adventure arc.
Yeah.
It's that. That's what it
Oh,
is.
fantastic. Oh, does that mean someone gets to do the last week on
Mhm.
Space Adventure?
We do that in the beginning, yeah.
Oh,
So we have space adventure, we have steampunk mystery type adventure, and we have superheroes. So
So what's your superhero like?
my superhero is a middle-aged biker chick who runs her own auto shop, and she controls gravity. She can manipulate gravity to throw things. And
Now, that is a skill I could just think of the juggling shows I could perform if I could manipulate gravity.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You already do, kind of.
Well, what annoys me about gravity is just how totally unpredictable gravity is. If only it was like constant, it would just make it a lot easier. At least that's what I tell people.
Sounds good.
Oh, stop
So-
talking, he's back. Oh, shit, he can hear us now, yeah.
Oh, no. So
Daddy's home, kids.
if you were a superhero, you would want to control gravity? Or is there another superpower you'd want?
Oh, what's the best superpower? I'll tell you what the best superpower answer I've ever heard was, and it's not the one I'm ill, but best superpower answer I ever heard was the ability to sleep for as long and whenever you wanted. No lying awake trying to get to sleep. No, I've got to just like, right, I have 10 minutes here, I'm going to sleep for 10 minutes. And carry on. I thought that's a fantasy. I'd be really boring. I would go for flight every single time. I would go straight for flight.
I think most people who go for the flight thing don't realize they need a second superpower, and that's landing.
On the knee. Oh.
Well, this is the thing about superpowers. And it's like everyone that chooses super speed. If you have super speed but you don't have super strength, your body is not going to be able to withstand the force of running at super speed.
Yeah.
It's the question of as soon as you get to, it's going to be pedantic about the whole thing. I always like theory, and it's come up with things, various different things. The idea of superpower pace. So, for example, you could have flight, but you can only fly at a walking pace. Because when you picture flight, you think that if you could only fly at sort of that very slow walking pace, it probably wouldn't be anywhere near as much fun. And yeah, you have all this sort of, how would you pay off sort of certain powers? You can go invisible, it's going to be at random times. Or you can go invisible except your nose. I always like the idea of superhero powers that have a quip to them. A bit of a monkey's paw superpower.
It's or turning invisible, but your clothes don't turn invisible. Which
What's the...
there's times during the game I say we're using superhero physics here. So when you phase through the wall, your clothes go with you.
Well, because, one of the characters is like, are you wearing anything? Are you wearing pants? He just wears a fanny pack. It's great.
Well, it's like Superman. I know they modified it in various versions. So he's actually got a little force field that extends from his person. So while Superman is, sort of invulnerable and everything else, there was always that question of, well, hang on, if Superman rushes into a burning building, why doesn't his super suit burn off?
Right.
And it's because he projects his force field around his body and everything else.
It's because you can't have nudity in movies.
Yeah, I do appreciate a superhero show or movie where after every battle, they're like, oh, I need another outfit. Because, but yeah, this is why in the game I'm like, we're using superhero physics where, when you do your thing,
Well,
super speed,
see-
you take a bug at 300 miles per hour. That's painful.
keep your mouth shut. See, I like to. Mine is manipulate gravity because, well, it's not flying. I can hover several miles up and go forward. I'm just not that.
Yeah, she had to learn to manipulate gravity in multiple ways. So the initial one is, okay, you can raise something up by lessening its gravity, which technically, even if you lessen the gravity, you don't go up. It's not telekinesis. So to lift her and her other super friends up, it was a modification of the power, because you're not only lessening the gravity, you're reversing it.
Yeah, my character, with the bad guys, I just increased their gravity and they smashed to the ground.
Right. Whereas last week when we were playing, she had a point where she's like, okay, there's 3 guys at snowmobiles coming at me. I want to just increase the gravity, so squish them to the ground. Well, I had a roll, and it was a mediocre roll at best. So she crushed them against the snowmobiles so hard the snowmobiles then smashed into the ground and exploded. Where what she actually wanted to do was increase the gravity of the snowmobiles. But she didn't roll enough for that precise of a control.
So instead, it exploded because I smushed it, and then one of them got their face smashed. Oops.
Yeah, so, I don't mind playing with the technicalities
our
of the
game.
power,
Yeah.
because I want them to realize, oh, I am very powerful and I can easily kill somebody by accident. But,
Well, it's the trouble. If you get a superpower that is too powerful, the story's boring. It's that thing of, Superman, unless he's fighting a equal supervillain, it's essentially relatively boring. It's why to get the Justice, or to even attempt to get the Justice League films off the ground, they had to, spoiler alert, they had to kill Superman off. Otherwise, the rest of them are just like, shall we just call Superman?
Well, here's the thing in our game. They may have the strength of Superman, but they can't control it yet. So they're still learning. So instead of opening the door, they're pulling the whole wall off. So.
And then you get into the whole question of romantic relationships at that point in time.
there
And not
is...
just romantic relationships. If they can't figure out a romantic relationship, they've got to be careful on their own as well.
Mm-hmm.
I pulled it off.
Oh,
Like
my
you haven't got a good enough roll, which means
Oops.
You gotta roll to masturbate, otherwise you hurt yourself.
You will put someone's eye out.
So I remember back in the day when, in the 80s in Playboy, they had comics, cartoons, and there was one that had Superman laying there with his pants down in an erection, and Lois Lane, her head is buried in the ceiling, and she's just hanging straight down. And Superman is saying, I warned you I was coming. So,
that reminds me of my favourite ever filthy superhero joke. It's,
go on.
Superman is...
It's no Rocky video.
Sitting there with Batman. Superman sitting there with Batman, and they're sitting on the top of this building, and they look out across, and they see Wonder Woman, and she's sunbathing on the roof of the opposite building. You know where we're going here?
Go on.
Sunbathing on the roof of the opposite building. She got absolutely naked, and her legs are open, and Superman says to Batman, "Do you know, I could fly over there, I could have my way, and I could fly back, and she'd never even know." And Batman says, well, go on then. So Superman flies over there, has his way, flies back, and on the other rooftop, Wonder Woman says, "What was that?" And the Invisible Man climbs out of her and says, "I don't know, but my arse hurts."
Yeah. See, I've known that joke since like middle school, and the
Me too,
punch.
but it's still funny.
The punch. Oh, it is. That's why I'm like, oh, come on. The punchline I always heard was Superman comes back and Batman's like, "How was it?" And Superman like, "It was okay, but the Invisible Man was really surprised." It's and either one is an acceptable punchline.
Oh, definitely. I do like and I like jokes that everybody knows, and I like to hear different people telling the same joke as well. It's fascinating, different people putting their own twists on a joke and things like that.
Have you seen the movie The Aristocrats?
Oh, yes, I have.
Andrea, are you familiar with this movie?
Which one?
The Aristocrats.
Aristocrats?
No.
Not Aristocats?
No, Aristocrats. No. It's a joke. It's a really filthy joke.
Yeah, I know.
This movie is an hour of different people telling that joke, like famous comedians.
I have seen that.
Yeah. I didn't make it all the way through because, frankly, after 45 minutes...
And the bad part is if you say the punchline, which is aristocrat, and you say Aristocat.
Yeah.
Is that from that movie or something else?
I did hear there was one story of this woman who took her 2 kids, and they wanted to see the Aristocats. And they went in, and because they were released about the same time, purely cons, and she took these 2 kids to go in and see the Aristocrats. Now, here's where it gets funny. After 20 minutes, she comes out and goes up to the people and says, "I think we're in the wrong movie." Well, to get 20 minutes into that film without realising.
No.
You know, sitting there through the filth and debauchery and going, I don't know, is this going to be a Disney film?
Have you seen Sausage Party?
No, I haven't.
Okay, by the way, terrible, horrible movie, which is terribly funny and inappropriate, with actually a really interesting philosophical message to it. But we went to see it in the theater, because we went, this is going to be horrible, we want to see this in the theater.
On the big screen.
And there was a family, a mother and a father, and like a 3 or 4 year old child that was sitting 5 or 6 rows behind us. They brought their child to see this cartoon, possibly thinking, well, he won't get all the references. And 20 minutes into the movie, when you hit the second act, it's when all the food is at the woman's house and she starts preparing dinner. So she's like skinning the potatoes and she's chopping up the baby carrots who are...
Do you know about this movie where all the food is alive?
No.
Okay,
Oh.
all the food is alive.
Seth
so that's...
Rogen.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's,
that's right, yeah.
and they live in this beautiful place, a grocery store, and their equivalent of going to heaven is when they're bought and taken to somebody's home where the eternal paradise is. And they're brought there and they're all excited, and the first potato gets picked up and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to heaven, oh, this is great," and she whips out the peeler and starts peeling him, and he's like, "Oh, my eyes," and all the other food's like, and the baby carrots, the bag opens and they're like, "Run," and one carrot starts heading for the floor, wobbling, and she grabs it and throws it in her mouth, and the other food is like, she's eating babies. This kid behind us is squalling in terror during this scene. And the parents are just like, shh, shh, shh. They were just like, I don't believe you brought your damn kid to a rated R Seth Rogen animated feature. What the hell were you thinking?
And, I'm a bad person. Because instead of yelling at the parents to get their kid out, I thought it was funny that the kid was screaming while the food was screaming.
Yeah, we were torn between being, righteously indignant, horrified for the child, and just really amused by the whole situation. We're like, well, here's your therapy bill.
See, you know what's funny? I went to work this morning, and I was talking about this exact thing this morning at work.
I know, we were listening on your phone.
Well, there you go. That's why.
What are you looking at, Greg?
I'm trying to figure out what on earth that is behind Andrew.
Oh.
Looks like a Harry Potter vowel or something.
Okay, it's a squirrel. My friend, she designs shirts that are sold on Amazon. And because Travis likes squirrels, he bought one. And
so it's her dress form that she dressed up.
I put that shirt on here. And we have a squirrel mask So I put the squirrel mask up there. And this is the scarf, the thing that I was making the other day.
Oh, that's the scarf, is it?
Yeah, this is my first thing I've ever knitted. So
That's quite a long scarf.
How do you put the little frills at the end? How come there's no frills?
what do you mean frills?
You know, at the
Oh,
end
the
it has a
tassels?
string. Oh, yeah, then.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
How do you do that? Do you just, like, take 8 of them, shove them through, and tie it in a knot, and you're done?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. But yeah, so this is this. Because I make costumes and things, and I don't have a project on there right now, but
Now ask her about it. Now ask her about her two-headed baby.
Creepier now. Oh no, it's Betty Boop.
It's Betty Boop.
Background.
Show him your two-headed baby.
Face.
huh?
Show him your two-headed baby.
Oh, where are they at? It's in the bedroom,
Oh.
isn't it?
I think so. Of course. Where else would we keep a two-headed baby?
And I dress it up. Before Travis and I met and everything, or moved in together, my place was all Halloweeny, with swords on the wall and weapons and two-headed babies everywhere. So, yeah.
And it still is.
Just not all over the house now. I have it spread out a little more.
It's a bigger
So-
house.
Yeah, so the two-headed baby's in the bedroom now instead of in here. You're welcome.
Which, by the way, Greg, you remember how I said, did you do anything special to advertise that first show you were on? And you're like, no. And I'm like, well, whatever you did, do it again. Because we had this huge spike, specifically in the UK, and on iTunes in particular in the UK. By the way, last week, it did not repeat itself. So I guess it wasn't you that created that draw. So sorry. I was hoping
It
it
was
was.
you.
No, it was. But people like last week, they were like, "Oh, we've seen him."
That's right. But I think it was last Thursday I had Richard on, who's also from the UK but now lives in the US. And we had not as big of a spike, but a similar spike, and it's called Day Off. And we just basically went, we're going to have a day off. We're going to talk about having a day off and what you do on your day off. And I had Aiden with me because I wanted to compare what the psychology of a teenager who goes to school, not work, what his thought of a day off is compared to an adult. Because you notice as an adult, you never say, I'm bored.
Yeah.
You don't
Do you
get
know
bored
what?
anymore.
We following our wedding, me and Flick took 3 days. We couldn't have a honeymoon at this time of year. We had saving a honeymoon for next year. We took 3 days,
Which is very smart,
off.
by the way. Andrea and I have discussed it and went, that's brilliant to save up enough money so you're not dinging your budget again.
Exactly. You know, it's right in the heart of summer. This is where I make all my money. We couldn't take the time. So we took 3 days off. We went over to the other side of the island. We turned our phones onto airplane mode so no one could get in touch with us. And we took 3 days off. And I think genuinely those are the first 3 days I've had off in over a decade.
Right.
That I would consider to be days off.
Right. Where you have nothing to do, but you still didn't get bored. Because you're like, I know how to do things now. I know how not to be bored. And
Definitely.
even if that means I'm sitting here doing nothing, but you have set that time aside so you don't feel like it's wasted, because you're not supposed to be doing something else. But even if it's watching television or sitting on the front porch, and there are times I'll sit on my porch with a cigar, maybe some music going, and I'll sit out there for an hour to 2 hours and do nothing.
I did nothing this morning.
How was
I got
it?
up early,
Mm-hmm.
and I made coffee, and I sat there for a half hour staring at the cats.
I am somebody who likes to set my alarm. I don't do it at home. I get in trouble if I do it at home. But when I'm on the road, I set my alarm half an hour earlier than I need to, because I like to have that alarm go off and have that moment of, I don't need to move for the next half hour. I would rather have half an hour of peace rather than an extra half an hour of sleep.
I do that on work days. I know how long it takes me to get ready, and I know how long it takes me to get to work. So this is that set amount of time. So that's my deadline. By that time, I have to be moving and doing things. Then I set my alarm a little before, so I can wander through the house and pet the cats, or I can lay in bed, or I can check Facebook, or whatever I want to do without knowing that I don't have to get up and run to the other room and start showering and picking out an outfit and everything else. No, there's a beauty in no longer being bored. You're always... And I attribute it with Aiden to... He's coming from a structured childhood into adulthood, and he's used to thinking inside this box. This is what he's allowed to do. Watch TV, play video games, toys, which at this age he doesn't even show interest in anymore. It's natural growth. And he doesn't realize there's things outside that box. He can make choices. And I'm like, well, when you're bored, what do you want to do? He's like, well, I want to make a YouTube video. I'm like, then why don't you? And he's like...
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, pick up your phone, and I'm not saying stream it, but make that video. And then later throw it into the editor and pull out the, 23 seconds of you going, and cut that out. You can edit that out. And then go make a 10-minute video, and then later make another 8-minute video, and then make a 15-minute video, and edit them down where you pull out the I'm not doing anything for 30 seconds. And now you create this 30-minute video that you can put up.
And you're not bored.
Right.
But I also like what you said about doing nothing, about setting that time aside to do nothing, and so you can, because, if you work for yourself, if you're self-employed, if you're like me, I'm doing shows all day, and then I get back to the 10, and I've got so much stuff scattered around me in this van that I'm supposed to be doing. I've got writing I have to finish. I've got some props over there I'm working on. Even at this time of year, I arrived at a venue this morning, got the stage trike out the van, and then I got the tools out because I had 10 minutes and I fitted the bell onto the truck. I've got so much that I need to do. And if I haven't specifically set aside that time to do nothing, if I just feel tired and I'm knackered and I'm going to have an early night, if when we finish this podcast, instead of doing one of the jobs, which I'll probably end up doing jobs, but if I was too tired to do something straight after this, I would feel a bit guilty. I'd be like, oh, no,
right.
I'm supposed to do that. And whereas if I actually put in my schedule, right, I'm going to do Talk of the Tavern, I'm knackered, I'm then going to get an early night, I feel fine because that's what I've scheduled in. Because I've said to myself, right, when we finish Talk of the Tavern at 11, I'm going to do this job and this job before I go to sleep. I feel quite bad to just sort of not do it. And so you do have to sometimes schedule in that time, right, this point in time, I'm doing nothing. I'm going to do nothing for that period of time. That is what my schedule is. That is what my job is this time.
It's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, there have been times where I went... For example, Talk of the Tavern, I went, okay, I've got this other stuff coming up. It's going to take more of my time and attention. Oh, wait, John said, I hate to interrupt. Can you send me the Talk of the Tavern logo? Yes.
The transparent background? I'll send it.
You got it? Okay. Don't send it via Facebook. You have to send it via email. Because otherwise Facebook messes with the...
Oh, I don't have your email, John.
Okay.
You can do it on Discord.
Oh, yeah, Discord doesn't distort it. Well, thank you, John. I
Okay.
appreciate that.
I hate to interrupt the interruption, but I just going to say, I haven't got, but the stickers have arrived. The Talk of the Tavern stickers, that just reminded me. I got a phone call from Flick this morning. The Talk of the Tavern stickers have arrived at home, so by the time we record next week, the stage strike will have Talk of the Tavern stickers up here as well.
Very good.
Awesome.
Very good. Yeah, Andrea sent Flick a card with stickers for you.
Yes, yeah, Flick told me she got all, yeah. She said, I got a card. Oh, and there's some stickers for you as well. I was like, oh, good, I got my bit.
Well,
So yes, we will get some of those up on the stage strike for next week.
very
Nice.
good. Kennedy says, I think my soon-to-be ex might be able to provide professional lessons on doing nothing.
I like that I think my soon-to-be ex, read entirely out of context, that's it. That seems like quite harsh, sort of sitting there reading over his shoulder. Is his house just finding, oh, right, okay, I get it now.
It's, yeah, with I suggested to Andrea, instead of sending you a card or something, send it to Flick so we include her in also. And besides, Andrea loves pen pals. So if Flick is a pen pal, a writer...
I put that in the letter.
Okay. I didn't read the letter. I have no idea what she wrote to Flick.
I like to actually write letters and things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Two pen pals. It's awesome.
To Penthouse?
Yeah, it's a penthouse.
You should always write letters to Penthouse, yeah.
I used to love Penthouse letters. We Monday night, somebody commented they never understood why people read erotica as opposed to, I guess, watch videos or look at pictures. And I'm like, I always liked reading erotica, reading porn.
Your imagination is better than anything.
Isn't that the same question of why would you read a book instead of watching TV in general?
It is. To me, it is.
To me, it's...
Yeah, it made sense. Where I'm like, really? You don't get that? I can explain.
Of the two, I can understand a lot more reading something because, one thing straight away, you're not going to be put in a position of, oh, look, this is what is available to watch. And not particularly interested in that person, not particularly interested in that, but
right.
That's sort of the first thing. The other thing is that you say it's all in your imagination. You can imagine it as you want it, following that storyline and everything else. So no, I don't get it. It's the same as actually one thing I found quite interesting is a lot of podcasts. If you follow certain podcasts and you listen to certain things, and I don't know if anyone does this with Talk of the Tavern as well. Because if you're listening to this on iTunes, you just get the Talk of the Tavern logo come up.
Right.
Which means you don't know what Travis looks like, you don't know what Andrew looks like, you don't know what I look like. And I know certain people who deliberately, after they've listened to a podcast for a few weeks, and I've done it myself, they deliberately avoid trying to see any pictures. They won't follow the Patreon, they won't follow the Facebook page, they won't follow anything else. Because they've by then formed an impression of the person and they don't want to go and see what the person's actually like. Because when they listen to the podcast, they have the person that's talking to them in their head. They like this image. If they then go and find out they look nothing like them, if anybody finds out that, Travis is a 500-pound black guy, it will ruin their impression of this whole thing.
It does. It does. But I wear it well with my 3'2" frame.
You're 0.7% black, right?
I don't know. It depends on the day of the week.
No, that's funny.
I have yet to pay a genetic thing to. And I wanted to mention that earlier when we were talking about the genetic thing and knowing where your history is from. Well, we mentioned cultural background, cultural roots. Whereas now they're going, we could check your genetics to tell you where your genetics come from. And I'm fascinated about that, especially considering we can't track my family tree past my grandparents.
Here's the thing. They can kind of do it. But there's been studies showing that the tests aren't as accurate as if you actually pay the thousands of dollars to a place to do it. So
right.
The one test that fascinates me, and I'd be interested to have done at some point, and I don't think there's a cheap way to do this at the moment, is the Neanderthal test. So that you can find out what percentage in Neanderthal you are, which basically means you can find out to what percent your very, very distant ancestors were into bestiality, essentially Homo sapiens crossbreeding with Neanderthals, and because there is Neanderthal in all of us. We think of us being Homo sapien, taking us right back to the idea if you're a little bit this, you're a little bit that. I don't think, from what I gather, there's nobody who is pure Homo sapien without that tiny little bit of Neanderthal in. So we're not even a pure species.
And now they have come up with like 5 or 6 other species besides Homo sapien and Neanderthal. So we're finding, there were multiple species of biped, upright primates with enlarged brains. And yeah, I'd be curious. Yeah, you pretty much got it, Kennedy. DNA tests are the best guess for ethnic lineage. And I don't want to go the cheap version and get this, essentially polluted guesswork. I want to go for the expensive one. But is that knowledge worth $1,000+ to me?
Yeah, no, it's not. I mean, even the cheap one is still a couple hundred.
Yeah.
Sometimes 100 on sale, but I don't.
Yeah. Now, if I had somebody on the show that went, hey, I work there or I own it, or sure, absolutely,
Well,
I'll send you DNA. You let me know.
What's the point in it other than finding, potentially hazardous diseases because of chromosomes or whatever?
Well, that you could just get a genetic test. And at this point in time, I'm not having any more kids. So the bottom line, I could figure out, well, my family is prone to cancer or diabetes or just being stupid white people, whatever. But yeah, I'm figuring that out on my own. I don't need it.
And Kennedy says, the pop-up book of porn was good for me to find relatives. Sorry, sorry, I appear to have misread two comments together there.
Greg is mixing and matching for his own entertainment. It's the pop-up book of porn. When we were discussing video versus writing, somebody mentioned pop-up books. So yeah, that was in there. See, and I don't care to find relatives. It's when I was in my 20s, I was desperate for family, so I reached out to my close family, and even some that were 1 or 2 steps away. And here's what I found. They're really religious and judgy. And that's really all I need to go into. I don't think I need to expand on that anymore, but basically I went, I don't need that kind of I'm right, everybody else is wrong attitude in my life. I'm good. So, I unfriended them all on Facebook.
Family is what you make of it,
Which naked orgy is not the right answer after that, is it?
Which what?
Naked orgy is not the right answer after you say that.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
What were you going to say, Craig?
I was going to say, I'm so bad at unfriending people off Facebook. Kennedy says, genealogy is a hobby, and I've become friends with some second cousins.
Yeah, Kennedy, I don't know if you were here earlier, but I had a friend who does it, and she looked into my family history. She could not get past my grandparents on either side. It, dead ends. So my family tree is more of a shrub.
My thing as well is, sort of that, become friends with second cousins. Like you say, I've got no interest in finding family outside, but it's just another reason. We become friends with people for various different reasons. We get to know each other. We got to know each other through podcasting and through steampunk. Now, if the way you want to get to know people is through your family tree, that's fine. But
that's a good point.
I already have family that were dumped on me that I don't want to speak to, quite frankly. Sorry, Mum. But
Absolutely.
No, sorry, if Mum's listening to this, seriously, sorry for the last 3 hours. But
and he was only on 1.5.
I was only on 1.5. But it is that, it's just another way. And so I have no interest in finding people who I'm supposed to therefore be friendly with or whatever. That personally doesn't particularly interest me. I would much rather meet people through the social things that I enjoy and I have other connections with than just happening to share a little bit of DNA somewhere down the line. Especially as, did you know, for example, that I am descended from Charlemagne?
Oh, so that's the guy that makes that bubbly wine alcohol, right?
Oh, yay. What?
No, medieval King Charlemagne. I am a descendant of Charlemagne. Which sounds quite impressive until I mention that you are both also descended from Charlemagne.
Whatever.
Was he actually Adam?
Have to go. Well, almost as good because of that concept of you have 2 parents, you have 4 grandparents unless you live in certain parts of the Midwest. You have.
Keep going.
I don't know. was going to say, I've just made an American joke. I don't know how well that works.
It works
over
fine.
here. I would have done Norfolk over here, just so Norfolk people can be offended too.
Or Isle of Wight, we've heard.
So well, the Isle of Wight quite definitely. Okay, so 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great grandparents, just straight up to 16 great grandparents, 32, 64. It's that thing of exponential growth. It means by the time you go back, sort of 300-400 years, you have more ancestors than there were people alive at that point in time. Therefore, anybody who has a genetic link coming down there must, by definition, have been related to everybody who was alive at that time, unless you were in a particularly inbred family running down one line, like the royal family or something like that.
Now, my ex was indirectly related to King Henry VIII, I think. Like, one of her direct great-great-grandparents was basically a bastard female child at that. But because of that, in the Reenactment Society, she was giving a duchy because, she was able to prove that lineage.
Yeah, and it's how Kennedy's come across. Virtually every European is a descendant if they had descendants. So, obviously, if people didn't have descendants, then they're out of the game anyway. But yes, it's fascinating how short a distance you have to go back before we are all just interconnected.
Now, I've got a topic. Hold on, let Andrea put on her headset so she could join in. So I've got a topic that I brought up. I was talking to a guest about it. I don't even remember who, but okay. So we understand genetics, and we're learning to flick genetic switches. So, for example, if we take a chicken, flick certain genetic switches, it will now grow a tail, lose the feathers, and have teeth.
If you're going to flick a chicken, don't do it on camera. We can get banned from Twitch.
But you do it on camera, just not on Twitch. I mean,
that's true.
That sort of thing.
YouTube, it's okay. Twitch, not so much. Okay.
Or you could just describe it and people can choose to imagine it.
Well,
or you can get a pop-up book of chicken flicking.
So here's a thought for you. And Andrea, you shouldn't listen to this too hard because this is actually a plot line for After Hours City Defenders that will happen. But it might be next season. Okay, so if we took a human being and flicked the right genetics, since we have aquatic mammalian beings, creatures, if we flicked the genetic switch that joined the 2 legs and created a tail and allowed us to, if not be amphibious, then perhaps the extended lung power where we can descend into the water for a matter of hours, change the eyes so we can see in that murky water. In other words, like dolphins or manatees or whales or whatever. We could actually genetically create a viable mermaid species that is 100% mammalian instead of the mammal-fish crossbreed of myth. And I'm like, I wonder if we can do this. And then for the plot line that will happen next season, imagine if we're in a dystopian future like the superhero game is set, and you're dealing with a mega corporation who deals in genetic alteration. What happens if you get a message from something going, I need to meet you at these coordinates, and those coordinates are in the middle of the ocean? Nothing. Next topic. Okay, moving on. Was it a mind blower? Oh,
you said don't listen so hard, so I'm not. I'm saving it for the game.
I was trying to keep on top of this. So, what I was thinking about was actually I did hear recently that there is some suggestion about humanity may have evolved from some species that grew legs, then went back in the water, then came back on land again.
Popular theory, but proven false. But go on.
Yeah, it's same as sort of whales. Whales are mammal. At one point, they would have been land creatures that probably went back to the ocean. That's another sort of thing. And so that you get these fascinating theories about, sort of what's possible with breathing underwater. What I will say is that if you go to www.curiousaquatica.com and you see the pictures of Fliss the mermaid, you will not start spouting this nonsense about mermaids being mythical or legendary. If I were to say mermaids are mythical on this podcast and my wife were to hear about that, I would catch it. So no, mermaids are completely real. Just go and see curiousaquatica.com to find out about that. And actually, I think we're having Fliss on the Mermaid. I've now taken over this podcast. Yeah, we're having Fliss the Mermaid on the podcast. I think in September we've got a date in the diary for it.
We do.
For her to come on and talk about the oceans and talk about now. I know they're only 3-hour episodes, so get ready to buckle down for that one because we've recently heard some more stuff about things that are being done to the ocean that, boy, we're doing a lot of research in at the moment, and the way sort of whales and other creatures are treated in zoos and safari parks. So what I would say, bottom line, in that respect is, given what Flick was telling me about some research he'd done yesterday, I would say the last thing we want to do is go around creating any new species until we've got the hang of not abusing the ones we've already got on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm saying is mermaids can happen. And thank you, Kennedy. Appreciate the defense. Greg's a guest. We don't like to correct our guests too much.
I'm very sorry, Kennedy, but I've been speaking with William Shatner, and he tells me that it is quite definitely a podcast. And after his rendition of Rocket Man, I know who I'm taking from.
Hold on, I gotta drink heavily. Give me a second. So yeah, there's a possibility that we could actually create a viable humanoid-ish. But yeah, the theory of that humans came from an aquatic species because of some of the webbed fingers, webbed toes, the extended...
I have some of those.
Andrea thinks she does. It's not all that bad. I mean, you can see at least 1.5 knuckles on each hand. It's okay. So
No, I have webbed toes, so I'm kind of part mermaid.
yeah, but she's terrified to go in the water, so figure this shit out. We're gonna make a mermaid. Damn it. She's got a phobia about water. Fuck! We did something wrong.
Now that's a concept, isn't it? A mermaid that's afraid of there we're talking.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Afraid
like-
of drowning.
Now I'm just going to bring this up. We got 4 minutes left, so I've just remembered what I was going to mention when I first came on the podcast. So we got 4 minutes left. I got a phone call from Flick earlier, and she phoned me up, and she says, just listen. And I just hear this in the background, and I'm thinking, oh no, what has she brought home now? Because Flick likes to rescue animals, and she's amazing, and all credit to her. But you know, I always worry that the next one's going to be something incredibly dangerous. It wasn't. It was a tiny little, we think, baby blue tit that had been out in somebody's garden overnight. It had been dropped out of the nest. It sat in the garden overnight, and she is currently trying to nurse this little baby blue tit back to health. They've managed to feed it. It's eaten just a tiny, tiny little bit of food. And the thing is, my role in the rescuing of animals is essentially in the naming of them. And I mean, we had a crow that we brought in. So I called him Status. He was Status Crow.
Nice. It's better when you say it together like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we brought a rabbit home, and I called the rabbit Tyler. That was Bunny Tyler.
Nice.
So we've got a blue tit. So a quick brainstorm session. Funny names for a blue tit.
Oh, you're asking us.
It's already got that name.
I know.
I don't know. Can we go with Tipple for a teal nipple? Booby the officer? No, that's a play on Bobby, and they're blue. They wear blue.
Oh my god, that's great though.
You just call it Bluefoot because it's a blue tit, and of course boobies were blue-feeted birds. Are blue-feeted birds.
See, there's nothing funnier than the actual name.
That's the trouble, isn't it? Just that blue
This has
tit.
been proven.
Yeah. So anyway, with luck, by this time next week, I will be able to tell you that we've added a blue tit to our menagerie of animals in the house.
I just can't get breasts and nipples out of my head now.
And that is the advantage of reading it over watching it, you see. If I'd just shown you a picture of a bird, there is no way you'd be now picturing nipples. Or maybe you would, I don't know what you're into.
I love bird nipples.
Oh my God, Kennedy. Kennedy says Maiden Form, which is a brand of bra. So. Wow.
Blipple. Blipple.
No.
Blipple. There's a blipple on the radar. Drops
Now I
him.
wanna watch
We are
Spaceballs.
just shutting down. Make sure you join us in 2 hours on Andrea's channel there. We're about to go raid Madame Bonsai. Everybody have a good night. Here's a toast to hanging out and talking about blue tits.
Did you say Madame Bonsai?
I did. Mixing two of my favorite streamers. So let's do this here. Let's do, well, thank you, Andrea.
Thanks for
Outro
joining us.
music.
Discussion shenanigans tonight. You are the one thing that makes the show what it is. Don't forget to join us at the tavern next week. Until then, have fun, keep learning,
Mystique.
and be good to one another. Now, raise your glass in good cheer.
Cheers
Enjoy
to a
the
blue
small
tit.
moments every day.
I like Mystique.
Dreams every
I
day.
might suggest that one. Good call, Kennedy.
8 o'clock. Sorry, I said 8 o'clock.